Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling, your ultimate destination for all things AEW and WWE. Whether you're a hardcore wrestling fanatic or just a casual viewer, we've got you covered with the latest news, in-depth show reviews, and our unfiltered opinions on everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Join us as we dive into the high-octane action, dramatic storylines, and backstage buzz of AEW and WWE. Get ready to step into the ring with us and stay on top of the wrestling world. This is Top Tier Wrestling. Welcome to the Top Tier Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Don, and my heel advice for today is, if at first you don't succeed, put the blame on someone else. We call that changing your McIntyre. With me, as always, is the voice and face of the company, Josh DiBiase, or as some may call him, the man with the $1 million hands. We're here to blow your wigs back with some in-depth wrestle talks. On Friday Night SmackDown episode from March 21st, fam, let's talk about it.
The man with the $1 million hands.
You know why. All right. So anyway,
I do. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, Hey, I'm the man with the $1 million hands. There you go.
let's talk about it now. Let's talk about Friday Night SmackDown, folks. That's what we're here for. You guys, stop it. Jesus Christ, animals. All right. I mean, come on, guys.
Well, this episode comes to us from Bologna, Italy, in the continuing European tour for the WWE, and Joe Skeletor's home country. And
yeah, I know. He let us know. Guys.
He did let us know. He made sure we understood. But we opened the show with Kevin Owens coming out to intrude on Randy Orton, who was about to say something. He comes to the ring. He hears voices. The crowd's popping. They're singing his song. And Bologna was really popping.
They were on fire.
European tours, the crowds really pop, and so that's fantastic. It's great energy. But before he could say even like one word, Kevin Owens comes out with the mic, walking down the entrance ramp, and he's telling Randy, "Look, I know what you want to do, but hear me out first." Cody Rhodes deserved everything I did to him. Sammy deserved everything I did to him, but you didn't. I was mad that you took Cody's side over me, and that anger made me do something I regret. And if anyone could relate to that, it's you. You've talked about it, how in the past your anger would make you do things you wish you hadn't. So I can forgive you for picking Cody's side if you can forgive me for the package pile driver, or the not package pile driver. They keep calling it a package pile driver, but he just delivered a pile driver.
Just a pile driver, guys.
There was no package.
Yeah.
It was unwrapped.
Imagine if he did give him a package pile driver, we wouldn't see Randy Orton for a year.
Yeah, true facts. And if I had to guess, it might be because Randy is like 90 feet tall and almost, if not at 300 pounds. Maybe he was too big for, KO to pull off the package pile driver on. I'm not sure. But despite the fact that Wade and Joe and anyone else keep saying he package pile drivered Randy Orton, he did not. He gave him a regular sit out pile driver. That's what he got. Yeah. But he then goes on to say that the reason he pulled Carmelo out of the ring before Randy could punt his head off was to save Randy from himself, because he's grown and changed into a better version that doesn't kick people's heads off. And so that should stay in the past. Um, and then he goes on to suggest that at WrestleMania, Randy and Kevin Owens should team back up because they were so close to becoming the tag team champions before they had this falling out. They should get back to that. And Randy says what he should do right now is roll out of the ring, run down the aisle, and beat his ass all over the arena. But he does admit he found what Kevin was saying slightly intriguing. He never heard Kevin Owens admit that he was wrong, so he's got to think about it for a second. And he thinks about it for like less than a second. He says, "Scratch that. You can take that half-hearted apology and shove it directly up your ass." And he goes on to say, "You can tell yourself whatever you need to tell yourself. He did this. He deserved that. The only thing that matters when it comes to who deserves what is that Kevin Owens deserves for Randy to kick him in the head so hard that he gets a pat on the back from Roberto Baggio. And I can only assume, I'm not a follower or even really a fan of soccer. I'm guessing that's a soccer player, but I don't know. It's somebody who kicks things, I'm sure. I at least got his reference to getting a pat on the back from Pat McAfee because I understand he was an NFL kicker.
Yeah.
But the Roberto Baggio reference, I think, was lost on me.
Guy who does sports ball, I'm sure.
He must be a World Cup soccer guy.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is as good of or better of a reference there in Italy.
Right.
And he goes on to say, "You used to be about fight Owens fight, but now you're all bitch Owens bitch." And he goes on to say, you tell me you shouldn't have dropped me on my head. You shouldn't give me the pile driver, that you're saving me from myself. What's to save? I'm glad you dropped me on my head. You want to know why? Because I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. And we're like, oh, he said
he did the thing. Oh, my God.
He did the thing with the lyrics.
Oh, no. Oh.
It was pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
And
got up, ran around the rooms. Real talk.
Yeah, seriously. We were like, yeah, he said the thing.
I flipped the table over. It was ridiculous.
Oh, man. And he goes on to say, you know what those voices say, Owens? They say, whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, giggity. And
so
but not
your voices
for you.
Are predators.
Not for you, because in Vegas at WrestleMania, I'm going to kick your freaking head clean off your shoulders. And that gave me like Bryan Danielson vibes in his kick your head. No, was it kick your fucking head off? We used to be.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty good. And that segment opened the show.
In. Fucking head in.
In. Yeah, there you go. And that brings us to the first match, which was Damian Priest and Jimmy Uso versus Drew McIntyre and Shinsuke Nakamura.
This match existed so that Jimmy Uso could get his ass beat by Drew McIntyre and Shinsuke Nakamura for an extended period of time. And
the extended meetings.
Yeah, Damian Priest stood on the apron. Sometimes I think he may have received one or two sucker punches from Drew or Shinsuke. But for the most part, this was really... I don't know what Jimmy did to Shinsuke and Drew, but they got together and they were like, let's just beat his ass. Shinsuke was like, I'll beat his ass a little. And Drew was like, I will beat his ass entirely. And then Damian came in and stopped the ass beatings. And the match was over.
I mean, I would love to say that that's reductive of this match, but it really kind of isn't.
It so changed. Seriously, I know that it sounds like I'm joking, but really, this match was just that. It was Jimmy getting his shit pushed in, and Drew pushing Jimmy's shit in, and Shinsuke making sure that the shit was pushed in. Like,
Yeah, Damian Priest's moment happened at the beginning of the match and at the
Yeah.
end of the match. Because
Yep.
at the beginning, Priest is still heated about McIntyre's attacks on him. So before the bell rings, Priest is attacking McIntyre. But then after the bell rings, if we were to break this match down into three parts, the beginning, middle, and end, for the beginning and the middle, it's all Jimmy being basically bodied by McIntyre and Nakamura, keeping him from making a tag for the majority of the match and him mostly just getting the crap kicked out of him.
Yeah.
So it's not until we hit the third part and near the end that Jimmy's able to tag in Priest. And, there's some back and forth between Priest and McIntyre. And then, it becomes a little brief back and forth between Priest and Nakamura. And then Priest comes in and, Kinshasas the life out of Jimmy Uso. And then Priest basically gets his hands on Nakamura, hits him with a South of Heaven, and gets the 1-2-3, but then is immediately jumped by Drew McIntyre, who hits him with this looked like if a curb stomp and a claymore had a kid, because I think he hung Damian Priest on the middle rope, a la Rey Mysterio going for the 619. But instead hits a mid-height claymore to the back and side of Damian Priest's head, and then Priest sells it like he's having an aneurysm or some shit.
God, yes.
He's all just twitching on the ring, looking at the lights. Yeah, it's like,
oh my God, this is
And now you have McIntyre talking like mad shit to a now special needs Priest on the mat. And basically saying,
No.
you've wrecked my opportunity to go to WrestleMania or fight for any championships. So this is literally all I have now is putting you down until you stay down.
Yeah.
And Priest's response was blah 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 blah.
Pretty much, that's pretty much it. Yeah. I think you got it right. I think maybe at the end it was more like blah, and less like brr. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but you everything else is correct. Yeah. My word.
Yeah. I'm not trying to pick on Priest, but I don't like the I've been kicked retarded sell. It's too much. Now I'm like, well, McIntyre has Priest ass all day, I don't see Damian as a threat to McIntyre, when McIntyre can kick Priest into a padded room.
Yeah, if he can be kicked back into infancy, then maybe you two, never the two shall meet. You know what I mean? Maybe you guys should keep it separate. Cause you gonna kill this man. You gonna kick him hard. You gonna kick him too hard, one too many times. And there you go.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the issue that I see there is I realize that they've got to try and bolster McIntyre because this dude has done nothing. He's a jacked walking action figure. It should be sitting at the top of the card, and all he did throughout what feels like forever, but most of 2024 and 2023 seems to have been working his way into major matches and angles only to lose. And so I get that they've got to build up McIntyre, but having McIntyre kick Priest into infancy, as you said, just makes Priest look too weak. You know what I mean?
You can't kick this man one time. Yes, yeah. But then is that on Drew? Is that on Drew or is that on Damian? I kind of think it's on Damian to sell it that hard. That kick should not have kicked you into a babbling brook. You shouldn't. You know what I mean? That's a little too much. Comical, but a little too much if you're trying to get this rivalry. On equal setting or equal footing.
I felt like that's a touch of an oversell. If you get kicked into literally having a seizure, Like, where do you go from there for something bigger? Like, if you had to sell getting hit by a car or something, like we've already seen that, like a claymore will 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 have you drooling on the mat and twitching. Like, where
Yeah,
do you go from there? Like, your next sell is that you just die. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah. Unless you're gonna come out with the storyline that Damian Priest is narcoleptic, and sometimes he randomly goes to sleep, then I don't know, man. That may have been too hard of a sell. That'd be ridiculous if he had narcolepsy. He just passes out in the middle of the ring, gets pinned. That's it.
you know who would love that? This somebody that randomly goes to sleep would be right up CM Punk's alley.
Yeah, he just put a blanket on him, pin him, done. Quietly do the pin.
Right. Right. Now it's an Orange Cassidy match where he rocks him to
Yes,
sleep and then has
yes,
to try to pin him quietly with the ref even counting like softly.
yes, yeah. That's if you guys haven't seen that wrestling, go look it up. Okay.
But long story short, this felt a little like I realized they're trying to build heat between McIntyre and Priest.
Yeah.
Right. So this was serving that purpose to an extent, except I feel like it was almost too definitive that McIntyre destroyed Damian Priest. Like now
McIntyre
you're
just
not
came in and
building
destroyed
up.
everybody. Yeah.
You're not building it up. You just broke it down. Like Damian Priest doesn't look like he wants to get in the ring with
Well,
McIntyre ever again. Now,
I think they can get that back.
I think so. I'm just saying they didn't. They didn't really get it here. I feel like it
Yeah, I
felt
agree.
too decidedly McIntyre.
I agree. Yeah.
The other thing I think it was serving was giving Nakamura and Jimmy something to do. Because there was like zero heat between Jimmy and Nakamura. Like, I didn't even know those two dudes knew they were both on the same roster.
Yeah. Yeah, and it showed. That's why Shinsuke kinda kicked his ass. Like Shinsuke was like, I mean, I don't really know this cat, but it's a paycheck.
But it's somebody that can get Kinshasa, so let's do it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Damian Priest is like, not Damian Priest. Sorry. Meanwhile, Drew McIntyre is like, Rathalos. Like he, like he is relentless. He's giving his. I mean, he beat the snot out of. He beat the snot out of. Really Jimmy, but he also gave Damon some business. I mean, like I said, he kicked him back to stage one. Like my man had
What
to start all over again.
what is it that LA Knight says? Smacked back to factory settings.
Yeah. He reset him back to Control Alt Delete. Yeah, blue screen of death. My man got besotted.
Yeah, the difference here being is that McIntyre will just beat Jimmy looking him dead in the eyes, whereas Priest he has to keep jumping from behind. But
That is also
when he
true.
does, it seems to work out well in his favor.
Yeah,
So
that's also true.
this ended up being Damian Priest and Jimmy Uso's win by pinfall, but when all was said and done, for Priest it didn't seem like much of a win, unless
For anybody, for
switching and
Jimmy.
drooling on the mat. Yeah, no, Jimmy wasn't feeling like, oh, I won, Burke.
Yeah,
I'm
Jimmy
the
got
winner.
internal bleeding, but he's like, yeah, we won, we got
lost the
him.
match.
Yeah, he's like, he wakes up and like, did we get him? is Damon okay? That
And
was
yeah. Is
that was
Damien
Jimmy.
okay? That's the process right there. Actually, it
Jimmy.
might be more valid to ask if Damien is okay after that. But I see what you're saying.
No, not Damon. Sorry, is Drew okay?
Right? Did I hurt his foot with my face?
Yeah, he wakes up. He wakes up and he gives him the Johnny Knoxville. He just wants to check on him.
Right.
Did my face hurt him? Is his hand okay?
Is his hand okay? Um. So I'm watching and I'm hoping they'll continue to build McIntyre Priest, but like I understand that McIntyre needs to go over, but he needs to not go over by making Priest look like he doesn't deserve to share the ring with him.
Well,
Um
I think Drew McIntyre needs to go over by winning a damn match. You could be as brutal as you want in the match. Good story, cool story, bro. But if you're just gonna, ultimately lose it yet again, then I mean, so you're out there slightly beating ass, but not getting any wins. That's you ain't. I don't know. I don't know. It's not. You're not gonna. He's not gonna look like a threat to anybody, especially to anybody with a belt. If he just comes in, brutalizes them, but then still loses.
Yeah. Yep.
So
And I
they've
feel like
proven their point. You know what I mean? They've made him look real good. He looks dominant, but then does he? I mean, now he's got to win something. Not you know what I mean? Not just like some little piddly match with somebody. I mean, like a big match. He's got to win something.
well, and not for nothing, anybody can sucker punch somebody else. Like, Kathy
Yeah.
Kelly could take, a crowbar into the back, and like it could be Braun Strowman if she just like gets a good enough baseball bat swing on that thing, he's going down.
Yep.
So these, if all you're showing is dominance in your ability to sucker punch somebody, that's not really like, woohoo, good on you. You can hit somebody who's not looking and they fall down.
Yeah.
That's not dominant.
No.
And I don't want McIntyre to be a rat heel. Like, he's too big and too strong for that to be necessary. He doesn't need to Dom Mysterio this shit.
Yeah, they lean into that with like I think all their heels, and they kind of just need to back off of that too. Like Brock Lesnar didn't sucker punch people. Like it was kind of he's right here. What are you gonna do? That's one of the things that made him so dominant. Not every single person that goes heel, especially somebody built like a giant refrigerator, should be going around sneaking around and going, got you from behind, bitch, and then talking about how dominant they are. Like,
yeah, and Drew is ridiculously huge. I mean, I think he's like 6'6", so he's not the tallest guy, but he's damn tall.
a giant man, yeah.
He's built like a brick shit house.
Yes.
So he should be able to just beat your ass in the ring. You know what I mean? Like, he needs to be one of those kind of heels, not one of the ones that, needs to resort to cheap shots and trickery all the time, because I mean, then he could be that kind of heel that's like, oh, why did you end up going for the low blow when we know you can out wrestle this dude? Like, we know you're that damn good. It's unnecessary for you to, grab the ref. Then we could be on that shit. But like, he's heading down the path of rat heel, and it's like, stop. Drew doesn't need to be that guy. Yeah. In my opinion, of course.
And they also kind of got Drew doing. They still kind of have him doing the same thing that they had Karrion Kross doing. So I'm really not sure what's going on there either. Like even in their video game, they have Drew doing more of the personality of I've predicted that this is going to happen. And I thought that was something that they were doing for Karrion Kross. But I guess now Karrion Kross kind of stirs the pot. Like he's like the devil on the shoulder, and then he just sneaks away into the shadow. I guess that's more his thing now. Whereas Drew McIntyre is basically calling out the bullshit or what he considers bullshit that he's seeing. And, so I guess maybe, okay. I just talked myself into understanding that particular situation a little bit better.
McIntyre's whole shtick is like, you might not like what I'm saying, but where's the lie?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so we don't need CM Punk. That's the conclusion.
Right? McIntyre's speaking truth to power now. So CM Punk, you can go.
Bye. No, I'm just playing. I told Josh here, I believe just yesterday, while we were engrossed in the freaking WWE 2K25 My Rise story. I think I said to him,
man, yeah.
Yeah, seriously. I think I said to him that I'm not like gonna be buying any CM Punk merch anytime soon. I'm not gonna be getting a tattoo of Pepsi or anything anytime. That's just not gonna happen. But I do dislike CM Punk a little more now.
You dislike him more now?
Sorry, I dislike him less. See, it's so hard. My brain didn't even want to. My mouth didn't even want to
Yeah,
say it.
yeah.
My
It's
mouth was
like
like,
nah, nah.
I did not
No,
want to do it.
no. He's been doing all right in his run
Yeah,
here in WWE. I mean, if I separate the fact that like some of the stuff I've seen over the years with CM Punk makes me question whether or not he's just this like narcissistic drama queen as a human being. What he's done in the WWE is actually it's been pretty okay. Like especially since he's been back from injury.
yeah,
His match with Drew was pretty good.
yep,
Uh,
yep.
some of his matches with Seth have been pretty good, and I'm legitimately interested in seeing what happens with the upcoming what I've called out in previous podcasts, the triple threat that they're setting up. Um, and I'll speak to more of that, I think, a little later on because I think that some of that comes to a head in this episode. I think. Hopefully I'm remembering correctly, but I'm not
Yeah,
trying to spoil it. Um, but I tend to think that they have to be careful how they decide to do this Damian Priest McIntyre thing because Priest is a top guy, as is McIntyre, and you don't want to overbury either one of these dudes. Um, because these are two guys that could be at completely the top of your card right now. Like they're
yeah,
both fantastic performers.
yep, yeah. They should be burying either one of these men too hard. Like it's
They also need to stop burying poor Jimmy Uso unless they're trying to set up a storyline where he starts out well, Jay was able to get his on his own. Let me get mine too. And that converts into, oh, now I'm a bitter bitch because I can't do what Jay did, and now I'm upsetty spaghetti about it. Which I
I
kind of
hope
feel
not.
like they might be heading towards by having Jimmy just get his ass handed to him each week.
Yeah. I kind of feel like they just don't know what to do with Jimmy, and I don't know because something tells me, and again, I'm pretty sure I'm saying some stuff, and somebody's going, "You idiot! They've already covered this or something somewhere." But I almost feel like they don't know what to do because somewhere along the way, the storyline for the Bloodline got changed. Uh, and just like the whole what's the word I'm looking for? Like everything has changed in the Bloodline, and I don't think it's done so according to the original plan that they had.
Yeah.
And I have that's my theory based on several facts that I've seen and read over the course of these months where they were introducing Tama Tonga and the other
Tonga
one.
Loa.
Yeah, Tongaloa.
Yeah.
Um, like I mean, there was disappointment with how they even showed up. And then the injuries, and so I don't know. I think that's changed. That's kind of got Jimmy out on the outskirts right now, and I hope maybe they do something. Like maybe they're waiting to do something until like after WrestleMania or something. Because you know how they normally don't like changing storylines too heavily unless it's a part of where they're going. For ultimately for WrestleMania. So maybe that like he's just kind of on pause, but he's still getting a check. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a theory about that. Not an Austin theory. This one actually, has legs and can stand on its own. Um, I think they were on track right up through Elimination Chamber, or not Elimination Chamber. Sorry, Survivor Series.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just a little before that, it might have gotten derailed. But it looked like they had this whole plan set up to head into WrestleMania 41 with the return of Roman Reigns coming back, conquering or feuding with the Splinter bloodline that Solo had done. And the direction I felt like they were heading is that Roman would get the old, the OG bloodline back together. And we were gonna have The Rock come back and cash in on the match that he said he wanted with Cody when he comes back from Hollywood next, and that Rock might beat Cody, and that would set us up because we'd end up finding out that The Rock is the one that's behind this splinter sect of the bloodline all along. Like, it wasn't Solo that was the head of the table. It was, the other tribal chief in the family, The Rock, all along. And it was setting up for Rock and Roman at WrestleMania 41 until I think The Rock's plans changed. Like, he wasn't going to be able to make it, and they had to pivot. And so what they came up with is this next set of potential things to do. I mean, we also have John Cena coming back, and so they ended up pivoting to this, this angle as the backup plan. And so what we're going to end up with is you'll have The Rock being able, and because all he has to do is make an appearance during that match, right? He's just got to be at ringside. He doesn't have to be ring ready to fight a grueling, WrestleMania worthy match. He just has to be out there to cause some havoc while John Cena and Cody Rhodes have, the lion's share of the match.
Mm-hmm.
And, they quickly found plans for Jey Uso to go further with his singles title thing. And everybody else, sort of had plans. It doesn't look like they knew what the hell they were going to do with Sami Zayn. So he's been, like, rendered demolished by Kevin Owens probably through WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So enjoy your vacation, Sammy. And Jimmy is just there. He's kind of just hanging in the wind.
Yeah.
Because he was going to be part of the OG bloodline going into WrestleMania, with Roman Reigns' back. And now he's just there.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I agree with you. I'm quite certain that the plans have changed, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I don't think The Rock was going to be ready to participate at this WrestleMania in the way that they were hoping for, like, at least not ring ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope after WrestleMania, like I said, I hope that they got something going, or maybe they could get something going for Jimmy. I really don't want that to be the case. Like Jay. First of all, I totally understand what Jay wanted, what he was going for, and I don't think his intent was to just go out there and bury his brother, or you know what I mean, like that ain't the case at all. But I don't think anybody anticipated Jay being as huge as he is. Like, I mean, I think they knew he was going to be big, but I don't think they knew it was going to be this big. Like,
that he was going to become, like, the most popular wrestler with the biggest, poppiest entrance of all time.
Yeah, like, seriously, I don't think they anticipated that. I don't think they anticipated, Jimmy, I'm sorry, God, I keep saying Jay going to France and just having basically a 7-minute party with the audience. Or the fact that every time he comes out, people want a encore of his. I don't think they anticipated that.
Yeah, no, Jay is an attraction in and of himself now, just coming out there to his music and yeeting with the audience.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's a thing that has been created. Like, he's more over than The Rock was in his heyday at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So I don't think so. I mean, there's that to contend with as well. Like, and I think even if Jay ended up going back to his tag team days with his brother, if that were ever the case, I don't think it would matter. I think his popularity would still be the same. I think if anything, he'd probably just take that popularity to whomever he works with. So, yeah, you hear me fangirling for Jay all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I yell how
Yeet.
much I want to be him. I want to be him when I grow up. I'm like, he's so cool. He's so cool. I don't even know. He's
Yeah.
just cool. So I don't. And Jimmy's cool too. He's totally cool. But Jay.
Yeah. No, Jay has become something transcendent. I mean,
Yeah.
he just got that big, and I mean, I'm not saying it happened to him on accident. I'm sure this was all intended. Um, but he blew up. And so, what do you do with Jimmy?
Yeah.
Especially like if you make Jimmy start rocking it on a singles run, then everybody's going to be like, oh, they're having Jimmy do the same thing Jay did because they got to. You know what I mean? So you're
Yeah.
kind of in this weird space where what do you do with Jimmy? And that's how I feel. That's what it looks like as a fan watching the show. I don't have inside information or anything. As a fan watching the show, it looks to me like they just aren't sure what to do with Jimmy at this moment in time. Like, and I don't think it's because they can't work with Jimmy or they don't know what to do with him. But I think part of it is like you were saying earlier, and I agree. The plans they originally had to be pivoted from because it just wasn't going to happen, at least not right now. And so they had to put that on pause, and that left some people like Jimmy and Sammy kind of, in the wind creatively. And so now they're just having Jimmy work so that he's doing something while they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with him next.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that may be the case. So, but hopefully they come up with something, and I think maybe lean more into the no yeet because people like that.
Yeah, they do. But I mean, in effect, that's just Jimmy, Pop, and Jay,
I
isn't it?
know,
Like,
and I know, and
so,
and I think that's why they don't. I think that's why the he doesn't want to use it. Because I'm sure he feels the pressure there, and it's not even something that he's trying to feel. I'm sure he's just
yeah,
people that's gonna comparing him to, and I'm pretty sure he does it to himself. Um, so I'm hoping he doesn't get into his head about that, like outside of kayfabe.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, and speaking of things that blew up bigger than they expected with regards to members of the bloodline, our next segment sees LA Knight running into Braun Strowman in the backstage area, and Knight hopes that Strowman puts Jacob Fatu back to factory settings. He
mhm.
knows that Fatu's crew like to play the numbers game, so he's going to be watching the match. But then Strowman reminds him that he can't wait to get his hands on Fatu, but he had a conversation with Nick Aldis, and the winner of the match between him and Fatu gets a shot at LA Knight's U.S. Championship. So, if LA Knight is watching Strowman's back, be aware that Strowman's coming for that title if he catches this win. And LA Knight says, yeah, and walks away. But the segue was that Jacob Fatu blew up bigger than I think anybody expected as well.
Yeah, yeah,
That dude is so talented. He's good on the mic. He's got a solid character. He's got his little mannerisms down. He's actually managed to pull away from "I love you, Solo" to a different thing.
yeah. Now he's
Uh,
got that weird way of saying, "Do you know what I mean?" Where,
Nami.
yeah, no, but I mean, he does it where he rolls his. I can't even do it. But yeah, if you look it up or if you watch him next time he's talking, I'm sure he'll say it. Cause it's crazy. But he's got that. He's got the wiggle the wiggle thing he does.
That he picked up from what was it, the Boogeyman.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So,
Oh, he also has another phrase that he says. I can't remember it right now. But yeah, no, he's ridiculous.
all gas, no brakes.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
all gas, no brakes with it.
and I mean his ability to cut those, like, I'm coming to the ring and this is a promo impromptu, like from backstage to the front. He
Hmm.
kills those. He absolutely destroys those. And Jacob Fatu kind of came last to the bloodline, and now he's the guy that is literally putting over Tama Tonga and Solo.
Yeah.
Like, like he's making it to where we're like, yeah, here they come. We're like waiting to hear like Tama Tonga now do the whole yeah, 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 yeah. You know, it's
Yep.
he's gonna manage to put over Tama Tonga. I don't know if anyone could put over Tonga Loa, but Tama has a shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he does. He has a shot, but the other one, you're right. I just don't know. He's not. Man, I know we are getting way off, but I just want to. I don't know, man. I don't know. I've never actually seen him in the ring and gone, yes. You know.
Yeah.
And if he's not in the ring, I think they put an eye patch on him. I don't know if it was kayfabe or not, but I think they did that. If it was kayfabe, they probably did to make him look less like an adorable baby deer, and more like a wrestler. Because every time I see him, I'm like, oh my god, you know, he's got the big, adorable, big brown doe eyes. Oh no, like I can't, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't look at him and go, oh shit, he's gonna fuck some stuff up. No, I want to give him some grass or some hay or whatever it is deer eat.
Bananas.
Would you like a banana? No. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're gonna do with Tonga Loa because like his run has not been great.
No.
Whereas Tama Tonga is actually like at the precipice of being able to get over with the crowd that have, you know, he leaned into the yeah because everybody was making fun of that, you know, chittery, you know, Tasmanian devil bullshit when it first started, but
Yeah.
he kept up with it. Like he doubled down on it, and now the crowd's starting to get with it. So he's right at the line, like
Yeah.
he's at that like one more like big spot or cool ass promo and he's over.
Yeah.
So I think they could bring up Tama, but Tonga Loa, I don't know what they're gonna do with. He hasn't been seen since Survivor Series. And I don't know if that's because of an injury or if it's because like, hey, we can't we can't make this happen. Like you are just not getting over with anybody.
I don't know. Is it what do deer have to do anything specific for the spring? Maybe.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe he's busy.
Yeah,
But,
I don't know.
And that immediately made me think of who else we haven't seen since Survivor Series, and that's Big Bronson Reed. I hope his little shattered ankles heal up because that dude was skyrocketing to the top of the card, and then that unfortunate injury, like just nuked him from orbit. And it's like, you know, get well soon, dude. I'd love to see Bronson back in the ring, healthy, being able to do his thing. And he worked tremendously well with Jacob Fatu and the rest of the like Splinter bloodline. So if he was going to do more of that, or even just go back to doing his own thing, like it was looking really up for Bronson Reed before that happened to him.
Yeah, I agree.
But moving on from the United States Championship developing story, we are brought to an interview segment with Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton. And would you like to cover that and give me your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I can be real brief with this because I'm just so basically this was Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton just having a. I'm not gonna say this was bad because it wasn't. This was actually pretty good. Okay, Joe Tessitore started out by asking Tiffany a question. Tiffany was about to respond, and then Charlotte and interrupted and said, "You know, the Queen speaks first," but she didn't because Tiffany was talking. So Tiffany did start that sentence off. I'm just saying, Charlotte, no disrespect. No disrespect. I'm just saying you didn't speak first. I mean, technically Joe spoke first, so he's the queen. Um, but I digress. But Charlotte goes into her bit, and it was basically just Charlotte verbally dominating Tiffany, and Tiffany huffing and basically saying the equivalent of yeah. So
Yeah,
I
it did
mean
kind of feel like that.
Charlotte.
It
Yeah,
felt
no,
like
Charlotte
Charlotte
was
was cool as a
snappy.
cucumber, and Tiffany was getting flustered.
Yeah, Tiffany was getting super flustered, and most of the time she was like, you know how you're yelling at like a kid or something, and they want to say something, so they're just sitting there with their mouth open. Like any second they're gonna give it to you if you just keep talking, right? And like it was kind of like that. So I was like, I kind of feel bad because so far Charlotte has just dominated Tiffany. She's dominated Tiffany on the mic. She's dominated Tiffany in the ring. Like I'm not sure what they're going for here, but it's kind of like Mean Girls.
It's very Mean Girls. It's yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's giving me the Mean Girls vibe. But I mean, Charlotte's just, I can't hate on Charlotte. I can't hate on her. Like I'm giving her the side eye because I'm like, Charlotte, you wrong. But I'm also like, because she's just bullying Tiffany.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, we're a month away. I'm hoping Tiffany can give me some desire to see this match. I know Tiffany can go in the ring. I know Charlotte can go in the ring. I would like to see them go in the ring, but so far Tiffany has just kind of sounded like the she's man. I'm trying to think of the girl's name, but she's basically our perky little protagonist who's just she's gonna make it, she's gonna make it, but the queen of the high school doesn't like her, and so she's just gonna bully her, but Tiffany's gonna get her comeuppance eventually, and I'm like, you already have your comeuppance. You should be coming from a place of power. You have the belt. Like I'm trying to figure out what they're doing with this. Like I kind of feel like it should have been a bit more verbally equal, or definitely physically. Like Charlotte's good, but so is Tiffany. I just don't know why they're going about it this way.
Yeah, because as it stands, it's a weird position where you've got the champion kind of as the underdog because she's going against Charlotte Flair, who has like a world of experience on top of Tiffany,
Yeah.
And the way the build-up has gone thus far is that Charlotte has had Tiffany's number every single time they met, like definitively. Like there was a point recently where Tiffany tried to like slide into the ring, and I think Tiffany got caught in the ropes, and so Charlotte just started kicking her while she was down there, and it just Tiffany is starting to look like she accidented her way into a championship. Like you know how they all say you only won because you cashed in Money in the Bank, which gets a little tiresome because it's like a thing that WWE lets you do. So why do you denigrate it? It's like saying you only won because you got 3 seconds on me. Well, yeah, that's how you win. But in this situation, it actually is starting to feel valid because Charlotte is running her around so easily that this is another one where I feel like Tiffany's not just being depicted as the underdog, but she's starting to look like she didn't actually deserve to be where she's gotten now.
Okay, listen. You know what? I'm gonna be fair here. Listen, this was the very first opening interaction of this conversation, ladies and gentlemen. You let me know if it's in my head. You let me know. This is the first interaction after Joe Tessitore. I finally said his name right. After Joe Tesseract asked them, asked Tiffany, He started out. He says last week we saw a fire in you that we hadn't seen before. What is your mindset right now as we're just 4 weeks away from WrestleMania? Tiffany Stratton starts out with, obviously, after last week, I feel like things are, but that's all she could get out. Because Charlotte Flair goes, The Queen speaks first. And then she goes ahead and she finishes the sentence or finishes her thoughts about Tiffany with saying that she's not buying, she's having a hard time buying all the hype for Tiffany. But Charlotte Flair always brings out the best in everyone. That's Charlotte. Tiffany's rebuttal. You couldn't see the hype, Charlotte? Then why did you pick me for WrestleMania? Hi, I'm here. She waves because Charlotte just talked over her as if she didn't know she was there. She acknowledges that for Charlotte. Thanks, Tiffany, I guess. So Tiffany goes, yeah, there she is. Just like she was the first day. Pick me, pick me. Tiffany, you want to know why I chose you? Because I felt sorry for you. You came out there that day with a sob story about how you're compared to me. No, you're the only one delusional and disrespectful enough to think that you could compare yourself to me. Newsflash, everyone is compared to me. You're not that special. Damn, I guess I'm just gonna get my stuff.
Yeah,
Let's
seriously. Like, Charlotte verbally abused Tiffany here. And it felt like Tiffany, like you said, it felt like it was like a full grown adult having an argument with a child, and the child could only get things in like, yeah, well, you're a poopy head.
Yeah, and that's literally what she did. Because she's like,
yeah, because Charlotte would be like, there's no comparison. What, you think just because you have blonde hair and can do a backflip, you compare to me? It's not that simple. No one compares to the Queen. And I just felt like Charlotte had her ass here. She's had her ass in the ring. She had her ass on this promo. Like, Tiffany is getting, like, this has been a squash so far. Like, I'm going into, based on everything I've seen and heard, I'm going into this thinking, well, Charlotte Flair's going to catch her another women's heavyweight title. Because I just don't see where Tiffany stands a chance. They haven't shown me that this is a give and take at all.
yeah, seriously. And everything that Tiffany said, Charlotte had a rebuttal for, and the rebuttal was just basically, like Tiffany's going in for a 3-pointer, and Charlotte's just slapping it out of the sky.
Yep.
She's like, get that shit out of here. I don't know what you're trying to do, kid. Tiffany, her reply to you're not that special. I feel pretty special. I got this title on my shoulder, not yours, and I earned this title. That was her reply. And I'm like, oh no. I could see how you think that's, but as somebody who is, verbally vindictive sometimes. If I want to go after somebody, baby, I know what to say. Okay, so I'm already listening to this conversation and going, "Oh no, Tiffany, don't say that." And of course, everything Tiffany was saying, Charlotte was just taking it and going, "You can sit on that spike."
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I feel like Tiffany didn't realize that she was getting set up and then knocked down by Charlotte at every turn.
Yeah.
Like, Charlotte was verbally being very strategic here, and Tiffany went for the bait every time.
Yes.
And I get it, right? I get it, because we would be saying the opposite, right? Like, if Tiffany was holding her own against the Queen, we'd be like, oh, Jesus, suddenly they're burying Charlotte. And so this makes sense, but at some point, I am going to have to see some pushback from Tiffany that makes me feel like she's got a one-up on
some strong
Charlotte,
pushback.
Unless this is exactly what it looks like on its face. Like, if this isn't, if this is going to be, Charlotte goes in and just dog walks Tiffany Stratton and gets her a new belt, because that's what you're setting up. Like, at this point, that is firmly what I believe WrestleMania will have for this particular matchup. And I don't imagine that's their intent unless they want to bury the crap out of Tiffany Stratton. I mean, we went for months and months waiting on her to cash that in and finally get the one up on Nia Jax, and she did. Are you going to just have her turn around and basically hand the belt to Charlotte? Because that's what the build-up is making me believe is the case so far.
Yeah. Yeah, really. Seriously. I mean, honestly, Uh, guys, Charlotte Flair says, here's the thing. At WrestleMania 41, it's going to be the pinnacle for your career. For me, I'm going to shine my light on some undeserving girl who, because she has blonde hair and can do a backflip, thinks she can compare herself to me. No, sweetheart, you haven't earned that. Okay, just take your shit and go home. Take your shit and go home. I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to you anymore. Screw you, Tiff. Screw Sim's not Tiffany. Screw you, Charlotte. This sucks. I'm out of here. So yeah, I'm gonna need them to do something else other than this because, and that's just the beginning. This conversation between the two. This goes on for a minute, y'all. I mean, this goes on for a minute. Everything that Tiffany says, Charlotte has a rebuttal for. I think the only one
Yep.
struggling here is you trying to keep up with the fans that don't want you back. That's Tiffany. Charlotte's reply, they're either wooing or booing. You pick.
Yeah, Charlotte, like I said, had her ass. Like anybody who was looking at this like as a debate or watched this promo, Charlotte won. Even down to their body language, right? Like Charlotte was cool as a cucumber the whole time and Tiffany's getting flustered. Even to the degree that at the last line Tiffany was ready to rip the microphone off and get out of that interview. She's like, "And this year at WrestleMania, I'm going to cement what I already know. The WWE universe doesn't bow to you anymore. They run on Tiffy time. See you at WrestleMania."
And
But
you know why?
at
You know
that
what?
point, she was so like flustered that it was like, okay, well, holla, and Charlotte's just sitting there like, this is just Tuesday for me, girl.
And you know why she did it like that? You know why she was so quick to get off the mic and she had to have the last word? Because Tiffany said, I have my entire... This is how it ends, y'all. Tiffany says, I have my entire career to beat your accolades. And Charlotte said, you'll be lucky to have a job when you get to my age, Tiffany. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I Charlotte Flair has dominated her in the ring in their interactions. Charlotte Flair absolutely dominated her in this promo segment. I have no reason to believe that Tiffany is going to do anything but look at lights and hand over a belt come WrestleMania.
Yeah, so, hope they do something about that.
Yeah, otherwise it makes it a little less compelling when it looks like it's just going to be a squash match going into WrestleMania. You know what I mean? Especially
I do.
after everybody got so invested in when is she going to cash in on Nia? Because we knew it would have to be Nia. Like if she'd have cashed in on Liv, there's no heat there, so it'd have been like, oh. So it had to be Nia. She had to get her comeuppance, and so that finally paid off. And now what?
Yeah.
So here's hoping. But right now, for me, this is a relatively uncompelling matchup. So I hope they can do more to make it more interesting in about the month that we have left between here and WrestleMania.
Yeah. Here is hope. Here's hopings. But that leads us into our second match of the night. Somehow, Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman. Would you like to give us your thoughts, Josh?
I will. I really think Strowman and Fatu have a uniquely fantastic chemistry. I was pleased with the monster fight that him and Big Bronson Reed had, but Fatu is one of the few guys that is not as big as Strowman, right? Unlike Bronson when they're doing power versus power, I think it's a much closer match. Whereas Strowman versus Fatu, it's more like Strowman has the power, but Fatu has the combination of speed, strength, and viciousness. When he hit Strowman with 92 hip shots in that one match,
Yeah.
I found it believable. I'm like, Strowman's dead. At this point, this guy has so much brain damage. So they've done a fantastic job of making it believable that Strowman is going to struggle here. And Strowman's another one that they might need to be a little careful with because, like, he is huge, but he suffers from the like slow and dopey, like in the
Oh
worst kind of
man.
way.
Oh
And
man.
so I'm hoping that they can pull back from that. Like that seems to be their de facto. This is our. They have like a couple of methods for like offsetting like a physical mismatch. Like when the one opponent is significantly bigger and stronger than the other. With certain exceptions, of course, but for the most part, the format is this: the bigger person is going to be slow, the bigger person is going to be slightly stupid, and fall for any and every trick used. And we're also going to run them into the ring post because the ring
Yeah.
post is our equalizer. Like you can guarantee that if there's a huge physical mismatch, at some point the bigger person is going to get run into the ring post to give the littler person a shot in hell.
Yep.
Um, that said, though, Strowman and Fatu is actually looking pretty good. And in this match, it's a pretty good give and take in the first part of the match. Strowman and Fatu are kind of hitting shots back and forth. And I think that's kind of as it should be. Like, it shouldn't be too lopsided at the beginning. Although, near the end of the first segment, there's a point where where Strowman goes for the Strowman Express, and I'll let you talk about what you think of the Strowman Express here in a minute.
Oh my
But
god.
he goes for the Strowman Express, and as he's heading towards Fatu, who's not far from the announce table, Fatu launches Strowman over the announce table, and basically at that point, Fatu's able to get the up on Strowman. I honestly feel like Strowman should probably retire the Strowman Express because it seems like that is the moment where people can end up reversing like who's in control of the match on him more often than he actually successfully gets like whatever that is worth, you know.
Yeah.
Um, Then, as we enter into the middle portion of the match, Fatu has control, and he is just beating the brakes off of Strowman. With Strowman occasionally, getting a shot in just to let you know he's still alive. And there's a point where I want to say Jacob Fatu tries to lift Strowman for the Samoan drop. And we're both like, oh, this is a bad idea. And it is because Strowman's able to like block it by being just too heavy.
Yeah.
But Fatu counters that by kicking the knee out from under Strowman and continues to just, kind of beat on Strowman, outmaneuvering him and outspeeding him for a while. And then Fatu or Jacob gets a super kickoff on Strowman that leads into him actually succeeding at the Samoan drop. That it's still impressive, right? I'm not saying it's not, but we often will see it play out that somebody will attempt a move, it will fail, and so inevitably later in the match they're going to succeed with that move. And so Fatu hits the Samoan drop, and then he follows that up with a running senton and tries to get the pin, but Strowman kicks out, and Fatu follows that with like a running hip attack. And let's see. There's a point after that where Fatu and Strowman are starting to have a more back and forth. Like it's like Strowman is starting to wake up again. And by the end of the middle portion of the match, Strowman is up having hit Jacob with some forearm shivers and 2 back-to-back clotheslines. And going into the third part of the match, Strowman rips off his t-shirt as Fatu is exiting the ring, and Strowman then delivers the Strowman Express, and this time it works. And he rolls Fatu back into the ring. Strowman then hits a big spine buster on Jacob, and it's looking like the momentum is shifting in Strowman's favor. And it's at this point that Tama Tonga and Solo interfere in the match. Tama Tonga is outside trying to attack Strowman, and he ends up throwing Tama Tonga into the ring. He attempts the running power slam on Tama Tonga, but Solo Sikoa counters with a Samoan spike, and that forces a DQ. And so at this point, Solo and Tama Tonga have interfered, disqualifying the match and costing Jacob Fatu his opportunity at the United States Championship again.
Yeah.
And it does, in fact, allow Strowman to have the opportunity. And there's some exchanges, at least visually, if not so much verbally, of like Jacob, looking at least conflicted, if not slightly upset that they have cost him his shot.
Yeah.
But then they proceed to start kicking the crap out of Strowman, like all three of them. And shortly into that, LA Knight runs out to make the save, and he, first he deals with Tonga, and then he goes after Jacob. But then Tonga ends up attacking LA Knight from behind. And long story short, the two men, LA Knight and Strowman, end up, regaining control against the three, and they end up exiting. And you have LA Knight and Strowman standing in the ring, and LA Knight turns to face his upcoming new challenger, and they just sort of have a face-off as this segment comes to an end. And so your winner is Braun Strowman via disqualification, which makes Braun Strowman the new number one contender for the United States Championship against LA Knight.
Yeah.
And I don't think Jacob's going to be too terrifically happy with Solo and Tama Tonga on this one. What do you think?
I don't think so either. And I mean, I would like to know why they intervened or why they interfered to that level. Because for me, it just kind of did look like Solo intentionally cost the match. But maybe that's just how I feel about Solo. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm just adding I'm like, maybe that's it.
I don't disagree with you. I tend to think it felt like they jumped the gun. I mean, I know this is all planned, but just as like if we're buying in, here it is.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
It looked to me like they jumped the gun because it was almost like it wasn't long into Strowman getting some momentum in the match that they interfered. Like Jacob wasn't that bad off yet. You know what I mean? And it's like attack. And it's like, but there's a title shot on the line. Like you should really wait until it looks like there's no other way. So I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Good. As usual. Oh, let's talk about the Strowman Express. Let's get into that.
Yes.
I'm gonna need them to stop that shit, and here's why. He looks ridiculous. It's not fast. I don't know what you guys think fast is. Okay? I don't know. This is not the Strowman. If I were gonna go on a trip, I would not get on the Strowman Express. It would be a lie. I would tell all my friends, don't do that. That's called the Strowman Express. It's really the fucking Strowman Slow. It's you're not gonna get there anytime fucking soon. The slow. Braun Strowman. Listen. He's big. Okay? He's frightening. If you're next to him. But if I had to run away from him, I think I'd be all right. Don't think he's gonna catch up to me. At least my man has a scooter with him. Ain't gonna happen. I need them to cut that out. And I know they want every big dude to do that because they got Oh my god, they got so many Brocks and Bronze. uh, oh my god, the what's his name? The dog.
Oh, Braun Breaker.
Thank you. I know they want every big guy to be Braun Breaker and have him run around because they talk about how 26 miles an hour. I'm like, yeah, we know, we get it. So now they think every big dude is gonna be able to run around the ring. Angelo Dawkins, I see Angelo Dawkins like, yes, he can run around the ring and just basically, just basically shoulder somebody into space. Let's have him do that. That looks good. Yeah, he's got the speed. Okay, but you guys know damn well you see the difference between him running and Braun, the other one that you just mentioned, him running. You guys see the difference between that and Braun Strowman run. You damn well know you see it. Stop it. Quit having that dude do that. He might pull a hamstring one day trying to run half a mile faster because you guys are like, you pick it up just a little bit. Like, stop it. Leave him alone. That is not his wheelhouse, okay? That's not his wheelhouse. Stop making him look goofy. Because that's what you're doing. Don't make you guys better be lucky there's no camera. Like, just mimic the run that dude. He runs like he is absolutely at that is his top speed. Absolutely, he cannot go any faster than that. But he has to go to the bathroom much faster than he can move. That's how he runs. That's how it looks. Like, if he doesn't get to the bathroom, which within like the next 30 seconds, there's Houston, we have a problem. And that problem, the problem is, the bathroom is at least 35 seconds away. So he's fucked. That's how he runs.
Yeah.
So, that's how I feel about that. Boop, boop.
Well, I don't disagree with you, and I think it speaks to a little bit bigger issue of like, it's one thing if a guy is extremely agile, fast, and is huge, right? It was it was kind of an impressive thing that you've got, and I'm gonna say the illicit name Brock Lesnar, but it was fairly impressive when you had guys like Brock Lesnar who could like box jump to the apron. It's like this dude's like 300 something pounds or thereabouts. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But it's another thing when you have them going out of their way to do some stuff they ain't got any business doing. Like I'm back in the day, the Undertaker basically diving into the ground over the top rope, or Damian Priest doing like his middle rope plancha until he didn't anymore because he got caught in the ropes that one time, about damn near broke his leg. And it's like, these guys are ginormous, right? These are big dudes. I don't necessarily need all of them to be able to come off the top rope, over the top ropes, any of that stuff. They don't need to be high flyers at 300 and 400 pounds.
Yeah.
And similarly, it's a feat that a guy who weighs almost 400 pounds at 6'8" like Strowman can run at all, that his hips and his knees have not just collapsed under the weight of him. I don't necessarily need to see him sprinting around the ring all the time. Leastways when we have other people that are doing similar wraparound things like Braun Breaker.
Stop
who
it.
At like what is Braun Breaker? Like somewhere between, like, he's about 6 foot, right? And he's a heavyweight guy, but he looks like he's got the agility to pull it off. And when he's running around that thing, it's at a very high speed. So, like, we don't, like, for Strowman to be impressive, he doesn't need to be doing, like, jumpy, runny stuff. He's impressive because he's a wall of death. Yeah. Lean into that. Like, for some reason, it feels like every wrestling promotion needs a big guy to do more than just be a big guy. Like it's like, I don't need him to try and compete with Ricochet in that wheelhouse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
He's a freak of nature because he's gigantic, you know? So let him do that. Let him slam people into the mat with extreme prejudice. That's what he's good at instead of trying to make him a sprinter. Why? Like I look at Strowman and don't immediately think, track and field. No, powerlifting, bitch. That's what he's good at. So, I mean, to a certain extent, it's just overdone. I mean, we've got Ivar doing cartwheels and shit. I mean, sometimes it's cool, and other times I think you're just making them take unnecessary, stupid risks that are likely. Like again, we were just talking about Big Bronson Reed earlier, and him taking a 20-foot dive at 300 and something ridiculous pounds shattered both of his ankles. And is anybody surprised? Edge, who weighs like half as much of this dude, came down foot first and broke his foot.
Yeah.
Let alone a 300-something pound dude jumping 20 feet off a cage, breaking both of his ankles. I mean, let's.
Yeah, Jay. I mean, you're not wrong.
Let's keep it in these guys' wheelhouse a bit. You know, like if you're gonna try something, make it less ridiculous. Then like I need you to. Like, even Jey Uso, who isn't that big of a dude compared to, like, the size of the guys we're talking about, bricked his over-the-top plancha recently. So, I mean, like, there's no reason we need to see that kind of shit from guys that are, like, 6'5" and up. It's just unnecessary.
Yeah.
Their shtick is that they're 6'5" and up and therefore can body most mortal men. Like, if most men are averaging anywhere between, like, 5'9" and 6 foot, then these dudes that are 6'5" and up are freaks already. Like, these are people that are going to make an average man look like he's a small child in the fucking ring. So that's it. That's your stick. We're good. That's impressive enough. I don't need you to attempt to cartwheel double moonsault off the top rope. That ain't your wheelhouse. That's for the luchadors.
Yeah, exactly. Please remember that. Stop doing it.
Yeah. It's just I think it's unnecessarily inviting like these big men to end up with shortened ass careers, and in some cases, like the case you're making with the Strowman Express, it ain't that express. He's 6'8" and 400 pounds, and he runs about the speed you would expect if somebody that size was running.
Yeah,
and when you immediately can look at Braun Breaker, who's doing it like double or more the speed, it just doesn't look that great. It's not a great spot.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not the flex they think it is. You leave him alone. You stop doing that to Braun Strowman. He's doing his best.
But following that match, we are taken backstage where Kathy Kelly is interviewing Liv Morgan. That's Liv Morgan. Watch me. She's such a gremlin.
She is.
And Kathy says, now, knowing that Naomi was the person responsible for Jade Cargill's attack, why does Liv still have an issue with Jade? And I think it's pretty straightforward. Like I thought this was established. Basically, Liv is upset that for the entire time that there was a mystery around who attacked Jade Cargill, everybody accused and believed that it was her and Raquel. And so that's her issue. And she goes on to say it could be personal to Jade because Liv and Raquel beat her old tag partner, Bianca Belair, and her replacement, Naomi, to become, the women's tag team champions. So there could be some of that. But the question was more like, why does Liv have the issue?
Yeah.
And that's the answer. That was pretty much the interview with Liv Morgan. We also were taken back to show that Jacob Fatu is having a fit backstage, and Solo's trying to get him to calm down, but Jacob, he's all gas and no brakes. And Solo says he was just trying to help, and Jacob's like, stay out of his business. So the rift between Jacob and Solo is growing.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like we're setting up for a match at WrestleMania between Jacob and Solo and
I'd
I'm
be
here
here
for
for
it.
it. Yeah,
For as long
yep.
as we had Jacob going, I love you, Solo. I mean, it'd be good to see Jacob be like, I kicked your ass, Solo. Because I mean,
Yeah.
tell me that isn't the outcome immediately. Like if I say Jacob
I
versus Solo, who wins? Jacob every
I'm pretty
time,
sure Jacob's gonna win. Yeah.
unless Solo cheats.
Unless Solo has been holding back and we've only been seeing him in like second gear or some shit, you know, then nah, he's gonna get destroyed.
Yeah. Which is kind of a weird spot for Solo to find himself in because he had to rise to being the threat that could challenge the head of the table,
Yeah.
and now he's got to. I feel like Solo's entire career on the main roster has been in the service of someone other than himself, whereas Jacob showed up and got himself over. Solo has always been the MacGuffin. Like he showed up to help Roman, and then he showed up to be the counter position to Roman, and now he's putting over Jacob. It's like, when is Solo actually going to be Solo and do his thing for him?
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And I'm not sure what he could have done differently. Um but I'm waiting for them to give him an opportunity to do his own thing because yeah, he has come in and it's just been immediate bloodline and and then immediate more bloodline and like yeah. So
Yeah, and what I mean by that is I just want. I feel like Solo has been a plot device and a prop.
yeah. Yeah.
And while everybody ends up having to do that a little bit in any kind of storyline, I feel like that has been exclusively Solo's story. And so I'm just looking forward to the day when Solo can bust out and be his own character for himself. And I see a lot of potential with Solo, and I really want to see it realized. Um, I
Yeah.
also really want him to stop using the stupid thumb attack. I mean,
Please.
that I get that it's an homage to Umaga. I get it, but it's also like the dumbest fucking finish. Like it is dumber than the mandible claw. Like it is so
Yeah.
stupid. It's not an impressive thing to see. It's not a cool finish in my opinion. It's like I'm expected to believe that he's not breaking his thumb on a weekly basis trying to jab it into people. And it's not nearly as cool as the spinning Solo was. Like
Nope.
that's just a rotating rock bottom, and it's badass. And he can throw it really well on people. So I don't know. That's a personal quibble I've got. Like I care about the in-ring moves. Like I don't think the Undertaker would have been quite so badass if he wasn't using if his moves didn't matter, if the choke slam didn't
Yeah.
matter, if the tombstone didn't matter, if Hell's Gate and the last ride didn't matter. They matter. It matters. Your finishing move matters. The Stone Cold Stunner made Stone Cold. The Rock Bottom and the People's Elbow made The Rock. They were a huge part of those guys. So you've got to get a good finish, and the stupid thumb to the neck ain't one of them, no matter how much you're trying to sell me on it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sell me on it that it's a great finish when, he's got to do like 15 of them to a guy. He's like rapid fire thumbs to the neck. It's fucking stupid. So he had a perfectly good finish that stood out and it was his own. And then you were like, yeah, about that stuff that's unique to you, fucking scrap that shit. Just be a walking homage to Umaga.
Yeah, at the cost of your own popularity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Not my cup of tea. I wish they would just let him do his thing.
Well, and I get that you want to have a move that you can finish with. Like we hear this all the time. For longevity, you want a move that you can do every night, night in, night out.
Yeah, but if you can't do something like the spinning solo, then I mean, that's a
I
fairly
agree.
that's a fairly
And you,
easy move
I,
comparatively.
I think you're missing the forest for the trees if your finisher was like to thump somebody in the nose. That shit's fucking stupid. You could do it every night though. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like at a
yeah,
certain point, you're sacrificing what makes us watch pro wrestling in order for them to be able to continue to not show us pro wrestling for a lengthy career of doing so. No, I mean if you still gotta fucking wrestle and you still gotta throw moves, actual moves, not I stuck my thumb in his neck, kinda. Come
yeah,
on.
yeah.
But that leads us into the third match of the night, which is Piper Niven with Chelsea Green et al. With her new Secret Hervis member Alba Fire versus Zelina Vega.
Yeah,
All
the green
all two
regime.
feet of her, all 2 feet of Zelina Vega, and her hair that is trying to consume her.
Goodness gracious, the hair.
And
Oh
would you
yeah,
like to speak
it's
to this?
getting. Yeah, this was a and I really hate to say it this way, but this was an unimpressive filler match. Um, if you've watched Naruto, you know that they had really great seasons, but there was a couple of seasons where it was just a bunch of filler and you hated it. That's kind of what this was. Of letting people do their thing. I love the fact that Piper Niven is getting work. I love the fact that she's got a little thing going here with Chelsea Green. I enjoy the new green regime. You know, I like the whole shtick. You know, I like it. However, this is another case. Piper Niven is another case of them having a big, strong competitor, and then just making them job or sideline or be an addition to someone or something else. Excuse me. Um, and I'm kind of I kind of want Piper now. I said all of this knowing, and I'm just gonna tell you right now that Piper does get the win over Zelina Vega, and I don't think that's pretty. I don't actually think that's much of a surprise. Zelina Vega is she jobs about just as hard as Piper Niven does. I'm hoping that this is an upturn for Piper Niven, however, but I kind of want Piper Niven to be on her own and vicious. I see little pieces, little glimpses of Piper doing some brutal shit in the ring, and I feel like the person or the competitor she could be is being held back by the fact that they need her to be comedy relief or to be the sidekick. I'm glad that they don't lean into the fat friend bullshit that they used to do back in the day. So I'm glad that side of thing. But I'm just I kind of I'm ready for Piper to be separate from this business and have her own illustrious career before she is, before her wrestling career is over. There's a whole bunch of uh female competitors that I could say that about, but Piper Niven is probably one of my favorites because I mean honestly, she is a powerhouse. She's got everything they want, and yet they kind of just utilize her in the standard way that they would utilize a big female competitor like Raquel. But hey, like I said, at least they're getting paychecks. At least everybody's eating well. I just wish that there was more um, for me to see in the ring with her. Aside from that, though, uh, this match, it's I like Zelina Vega is not a bad competitor. Um, she is just a very small competitor, so a lot of her matches. I think what they want to do with her is try to get you to see that even though she's small, she can find clever ways to get a pin or clever ways to one up her opponent. Um, and it's it's good, but that usually means that you have to be moving nonstop in the ring. You have to constantly be trying to get your opponent down because it's gonna take somebody like Piper Niven one good hit, and then you'll be you know
Destroyed. Yeah.
destroyed. Yeah, that'll be it. So speed is great, but without power, um, it's just gonna end up running its course. It's gonna end up running out before the person with the power is going to be weak. So,
Yeah.
my critique of this match was it was kind of a nothing sandwich with cheese. Um, and but I mean, I was happy to see. The storyline is not the problem here. It's just that it's. I hope this isn't gonna be a thing where it's gonna be Piper Niven or somebody from the Green Regime versus Zelina Vega. I hope that's not gonna be a thing. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you're going to be one of those smaller, scrappier counter wrestlers, where a lot of your offense is countering out of your opponent's offense into some sort of compromising move, you're right. Like if in order to sell that, you have to be very fast and very agile.
Yeah.
And I don't really pick that up from Zelina. She suffers from like I am such a small competitor that I'm just not believable kind of a scenario. And the story of this particular match, they did give it a lot of time to breathe. Like I didn't feel like this was a rushed match at all. Like they got a chance to play with it for a while.
They did.
And the story was looking like, well, Piper is bodying Zelina, which she did for most of the match.
Yeah.
Like slamming her around, hitting her with like the Uranagi slam, just beating the shit out of her. And only a couple of times did Vega end up with like a relatively respectable counter where it was like, oh, okay. And like Vega attempting to put on like later in the match the octopus stretch that she could barely get Piper Niven into in the first place, and when she did, it just looked like Piper Niven was standing up, hitting the T-pose to assert dominance, and like she's just happened to have a backpack named Zelina Vega. Like all she would have had to do in that situation is fall backwards, and Vega would have been like a greasy stain on the mat.
Yeah.
So you have a really hard time with competitors that small. That said, the story felt like Piper was going to toy with her, play with her food because she was having a good time just beating the brakes off of Vega for most of that match. So the story felt like it was heading towards a Niven's going to play with her just long enough for her to lose kind of scenario. And it felt like it was heading that way until we get into the latter part of the match where once Vega looks like, Piper has tired herself out beating the ever-loving shit out of me. Now I will get some momentum. That's, of course, when Chelsea and Fire end up interfering in the match. And Vega, at this point, Vega was pulling off the I'm countering everyone, and I just got overwhelmed by the numbers. That it was in the final moments of this match that I really felt that happening because she ends up kicking Chelsea off the ring apron and hitting a 619, I want to say, on Piper, and then Fire attempts to grab her outside while she's on the apron, and she jumps over the I guess the trip attempt and kicks Vega with a PK. But then when she gets back in the ring, Niven just destroys her with a running crossbody block, which looked like it could have been the first move of the match. Honestly, they could have rung the bell and Piper could have took out running and hit the running crossbody and just turned Vega into a stain on the mat.
As I said, it takes just that one hit. Yeah. And that's exactly why she didn't do it in the beginning. Because that one hit would have been it.
Yeah.
So how is that an opponent? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't feel like this was necessarily a bad match, but I do feel like I'm not sure what they can do with Zelina Vega. Like Vega made a big announcement, like I'm leaving the LWO to come to SmackDown, and over here I'm going to job. Okay, you know, I don't know what more they can do with her because I mean, there's the reality is that Zelina Vega is like 2 feet tall and weighs 10 pounds. It's just
Yeah.
she's really difficult to make me believe that someone who, when they bounce off the ropes, doesn't actually bounce off the ropes because they don't have enough body weight, is doing anything in that ring to anybody.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
and
mean,
this.
I didn't think the match was bad either. That's why I had the cheese. Cheese to the nothing sandwich.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just worried that there's not a lot that because the women's division is getting bigger than it's ever been. I mean, you've got
Yeah.
powerhouses like Bianca Belair, Naomi is pretty stacked. Jade Cargill is ridiculously jacked. Nia Jax is gargantuan. Niven is a big woman who can move in the ring. I mean, so the overall size of the women's division is going up, and Zelina was small even on the average. So, like, I don't know what she's going to be. I half think that's why Becky Lynch is taking a breather because it's like there's no believable way to book her without her hitting somebody with a diesel engine.
Yeah.
You know, what am I expected to believe that, like, Rhea Ripley is going to lose to somebody that small? So it makes it very difficult when the entire women's division seems to be getting bigger and more jacked and just taller and larger. That some of these smaller competitors just that unless you're going to make a like cruiserweight division in the women's division, I'm not sure what you do with some of these competitors that are so little.
Yeah.
Because the alternative is to put them in matchups where it makes it very difficult to give my willing suspension of disbelief to it because you're expecting me to believe that this tiny, tiny little person isn't going to just immediately get destroyed by anybody who's substantially larger than her.
Yeah.
And like you said, in order for speed to beat power, speed has to be ridiculously over the top. Like so much faster. Like skill and speed have to work way harder, like twice as hard as just straight up power does to get it done
Yeah.
in combat. That's why we have weight classes in combat sports, but there's nothing like a speed class. You know what I mean? Cuz
Yep.
a guy who has 50, 60 or plus more pounds on you and most of that being likely muscle or lean tissue mass, like you said, he just has to hit you once. I mean, look at boxing. Some of these guys were never that big. You got Butterbeans and Foremans and whatnots, and these are just guys that have so much weight behind their punches that while they're not bobbing and weaving a whole lot, all they got to do is hit you one time and you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Hit you
Power
one
is
time and
that
you.
much stronger of a force in combat sports than speed or
Yeah.
skill ultimately can keep up with. That if any and most people that have that much power, unless they're carrying a ton of excessive body fat, also have speed. Because speed and grace is some middling meeting of the minds between strength and body weight. And
Yeah.
so you have people that have a ton of strength that are also ridiculously quick.
Yeah. Look at Braun
So
Breaker.
yeah, exactly so. And before him, Brock Lesnar. I mean, again, I
Yeah.
point to the fact that Brock Lesnar won the UFC Heavyweight Championship in like his third match just through sheer fucking speed and power alone. There were plenty of people that had way more experience and skill than him, but there wasn't anybody that had that kind of size and speed. So to pretend like size and speed can just be overcome through pluckiness is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I get that they have to try because it's like, well, this is what we have to fucking work with. Zelina Vega happens to be 1.5 feet tall, but she wants to be a pro wrestler, so we got to figure it out. But
Yeah.
come on, man. We, as the fans, just the consumers of this product, also have to believe what we're seeing in front of us. So
Yep.
it makes it very difficult. moving on from there, we had a unnecessary recap of John Cena's promo from Raw. Because God knows, surely he took enough time from Raw with that super long promo. I think 2 women's matches were cut because of how long it ran. And then after that, we had Kathy Kelly having a backstage interview with Jade Cargill this time. And Jade goes on to say, or she asks, is she ready for Liv Morgan to be her first opponent since coming back from her attack? And Jade says, well, Kathy should know how she feels. She was right there. And she was. She's referring back to when Kathy Kelly and her were having an interview in like an empty set of bleachers.
Yeah.
And Liv and Raquel started taunting them. And she goes on to say that since Liv wants to disrespect her and run her mouth, she's going to show her. And when she's done with Liv, her eyes are going to be fully on Naomi. And that Jade knows Naomi is watching, so here's a sneak preview of what's coming her way. And then we had a brief Aleister Black vignette. So we're definitely getting Aleister Black, and it's been confirmed that Rey Fenix has signed with WWE officially. So we're going to catch him soon. So we're getting Black and Fenix from AEW. So we'll see how that goes. Because unfortunately, I'm optimistic. I'm hoping. I still want to see how they do with Penta more, and Rey Fenix could be very interesting. We'll see how that shakes up the tag division, or if Penta and Fenix kind of just do their own things. And I definitely want to see how Black ends up being done, because a counterexample would be Andrade was fed up back in the day with WWE's booking of him, so he went to AEW, and then eventually he became fed up with how he was being booked in AEW, so now he's coming back, and now I'm hearing that he is fed up with how he's being booked on SmackDown. And so I'm trying to make up my mind if I think, is this an issue with how he's being booked by these companies, or is this an unrealistic, like, I am the main character narcissism coming off of Andrade?
Yeah.
But it is worth noting that bouncing between these two companies, Andrade has not found the relief he was seeking in terms of how he was being utilized and where his career trajectory is going. So we'll see if it's better for Black and Penta and Rey Fenix. I'm hoping for it, though. I really am. I would really love to see all these guys get to the peak of their careers that they're hoping for.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. That leads us into the 4th match of the night, which is Jade Cargill versus Liv Morgan with Raquel Rodriguez at ringside. And would you like to speak to this particular match?
Yes. This was kind of a slow go. There's one thing that Jade Cargill does very well, and that's the big boot. She gives great boot. And I am a fan of that. Now, my problem with this particular match is, even though Jade Cargill was going against Liv Morgan, she was really going against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, right? And as a matter of fact, Raquel is probably who she should have had the match with to begin with. And maybe they're going that route. I don't know. But this one was kind of a slow burn. I'm not trying to trash any of the ladies tonight. Like, I didn't have a problem so much with the match with Piper Niven and Zelina Vega. I didn't have a problem with it. It was just like a filler match. You knew that it was a filler match, and there wasn't much storyline or much heat. I should say much heat. That particular match. There was a little heat here with Jade Cargill and Liv Morgan just because of who these two ladies were. The situation where Liv was talking smack or talking loudly during her interview, during Cargill's interview with Kathy. That's kind of a weird flex to want to fight somebody on. But again, wrestling reasons, right? So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the wrestling storyline. So I don't have a problem with that. It was just this match, like Cargill and Liv. I always feel like Cargo has to. I don't think she looks really believable when she's selling moves. Is that maybe that's what I'm trying to say? Um, it's kind of hard for me to believe that Liv Morgan could do anything to Jade Cargill that would make her stumble around or be dazed and confused by the move. Excuse me. So it's just kind of a it's kind of like a really. Um, but what made this match a little bit more believable is that Raquel Rodriguez was there to help Liv Morgan, and also I don't think uh yeah, I don't think like Jade is getting she's getting her ass like handed to her towards the middle and end of the match. Um but then I think Naomi shows up, which we all knew was going to happen. Like Naomi shows up and Cargill gets distracted by that. Excuse me. She gets distracted by that. Um and I think she gets into it with Naomi. I think does she get into it with Naomi before the match is even over? And then somehow she gets back in the ring and gets pinned by Liv.
I want to say there's a point where she reaches out towards Naomi, like she sees her at ringside and she goes to try and grab her by her hair. And this
Yes.
is while the referee's distracted, and in classic heel fashion, she's got a weapon. So the minute like she sort of turns towards Cargill, she decks her with the women's title belt that
Yeah,
she was
Naomi
holding on to.
does. Yes.
And so Cargill gets blasted for getting distracted by Naomi, and Naomi then sort of crouches down for whatever happens next, like she's hiding from the ref.
Yes. Yeah. And so then that gives Morgan the ability to get the win. And I mean that's it's believable that Cargill gets distracted and then uh uh Naomi uses that opportunity to just basically like destroy her, which in her excuse me, I guess what's the word I'm looking for? In her defense, Naomi did get stumped out by Cargo like twice now.
Yeah.
Like two times already. She's gotten the stompings. So she had to. I think she was owed one or two. Cargo was. Um. So I think that was actually more interesting to me than the match between Jade and Liv. No disrespect. When Naomi showed up, I was a little bit more perky. I was like, oh, okay, what's going on? What's Cake's about to do? And maybe it's the heel in me, but I think Cakes, or AKA Naomi, I think she made the match just by showing up and then basically just ruffle stomping Jade and then posing.
Yeah, I do tend to think that this match was more to service the ongoing storyline
Yes.
for Cargill and Naomi. But that said, there were at least a couple of spots in this match that were worth noting. Cargill still gets to show off her strength. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, did Cargill look like she's maybe lost a little size? Like she's still very defined, but she didn't look as huge as I think I've seen her. And similarly, I feel like, is this cutting season? And I don't
feel
mean
like he's
the
leaned out.
emotional distress thing cutting.
No,
I mean like cut
no.
weight. Like bodybuilders cut when they drop some weight. Because I feel like I felt the same way recently about seeing Rhea Ripley when she got in there with Io. Like Ripley didn't look as ginormous as she usually does. So is it cutting season? Like is it cut weight season?
I don't know. Both of those ladies did look a little leaned out. Maybe they're carnivoring right now.
Perhaps.
Yeah, and maybe that's what we're seeing because, I mean, Jade has always been extremely defined, But like the last now, like it's even more so. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I usually see that type of definition on people that are doing carnivore or some variation of it.
yeah,
But
because Jade was definitely looking like she maybe came down from like 12% body fat to like near zero for this
yeah,
match. But it also looks like some muscle mass went with it. Like she's still got excellent definition, but she just doesn't look like she's as big. Because I remember seeing her in there with Liv, and she's still bigger than Liv, but it wasn't like crazily so.
yeah,
Um, she's more defined than damn near anybody. That's for sure. I'm just talking about size, overall size. Um, that said, though, Cargill still looked very strong, and the definition in her legs is ridiculous. Like she's got leg muscles that I didn't know humans had.
yeah,
And that's why, like, I agree with you. Her pump kicks, she definitely looks like if she could kill somebody, it would be by kicking them. Like
yeah,
she is all leg.
yep.
Um, but there were some good moves in there, and Morgan continues to improve her ring work. Like of the
I
things
agree.
I would have expected to see Morgan do besides lose to Jade Cargill, because Jade just I would figure just throw her around all day. But Morgan actually got the three amigos off, and it looked good on
Yeah,
Jade Cargill. So Morgan's in-ring work has definitely come up, and it's just improving every time she gets in the ring. I know I make fun of her, like with a but that's
no, no, she's a badass. She's a little
I'm making
badass.
fun of her character because her character is a
Yes,
heel. But
yeah,
Liv
yeah,
Morgan, the performer, what is it, Gianna Daddio, her real name. She has gotten so much better over the past year or so.
yeah.
And so I was really pretty impressed. Like Morgan is continuing to improve with her in-ring work. Um, so there was some good stuff in there. I also want to say that like Cargill countered. I want to say Liv Morgan jumping off the corner at her into like this massive power bomb, and the power bomb looked amazeballs. I was like, Liv is dead when we saw it. She's like, well, that was a good match. Bye,
Yeah.
Liv. And but you're right. Like this really was Cargill versus like three opponents, because not only was she dealing with Liv, who has gotten much better and is competitive looking in the ring, but she was dealing with Rodriguez constantly running interference. And
Yeah.
then near the last part of the match, when Naomi showed up, she was fully distracted from the match by her, and ultimately, it leads to Naomi drilling her with the championship belt to the face. And as you pointed out, that opened the door for Morgan to connect with Oblivion and pick up the win. And then after the match, Naomi just bodies her. I mean, she hit everything she could on her. She got her with like a slap to the face, followed by a bow and arrow stomp, and then like the heat seeker DDT. And then she threw her out into the announce table and then mocks her. I mean, just freaking bodied Jade.
Yeah.
And this was good because they understood that the perception, especially after what we saw at Elimination Chamber and probably prior, is that if you had Jade versus Naomi, Jade kills Naomi 100 out of 100 times.
Yeah.
This actually made me think, well, maybe not. You know, maybe now Darth Cakes has a shot.
Darth cakes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like evil Naomi could be very good. And so I was very into it. I mean, I really thought this was probably the best women's match of the night.
Oh,
No
absolutely.
offense to what Piper and Chelsea and all them are doing. I just think that Liv put on a better match with Jade than I felt like we were getting out of like the pairing of Piper and Zelina Vega. Um, and so there was something to be enjoyed in the match itself more, I feel, here. And they also did a great job of setting up Naomi versus Cargill in such a way that I don't necessarily think Cargill beats Naomi 100 out of 100 times.
Yeah.
And it upped the intrigue on what does a heel Naomi look like and how does she behave. And I'm here for it. Like, oh man, did that? I mean, I really enjoyed Jade Cargill versus Liv Morgan and Raquel for this, the way everything that this match did. I was a big fan.
Yeah, I think, I don't disagree that this was the match for the ladies. This was like the match of the night. And it's just because the match with Piper Niven and Zelina Vega was it was meh. Like I said, nothing sandwich with cheese. Okay, but the cheese means that it was good. It was decent. It wasn't just two slices of bread. It had cheese on it, so that's okay.
Yeah,
But but this match, Jade Cargill, and you don't think it started? I feel like it was a little slow in the beginning. And I do appreciate the fact that it did take three freaking people, three people, to put Jade Cargill down. I do appreciate that. Um, but I don't know. I still do feel like it started out a little, for me, in my opinion, a little slow, or maybe it was in the middle. There was a slow down point. But and maybe again, I'm just a fan of cakes. I can't stop being a heel. I don't know, but it got real good. It got exceptionally good when Naomi showed up for me.
I can dig that. I didn't feel like it was slow. I mean, the match opens with Cargill basically booting Morgan out of her shoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I felt like it kept up a good pace from there on out. I do feel like you're probably right. Like Cargill, I don't know if it's an issue with how Cargill sells or if it's an issue with our believability of the shit she is forced to sell because
Yeah.
like huge, right? But I went into this thinking, oh, Cargill versus Morgan's gonna suck, and was pleasantly surprised that it did not. For either woman, I felt. Was it the most dominant showing we've seen out of Cargill? No. Is there a good reason for that? She just came back from being on the shelf for what, like 92,000 feeling months? But it was several months, so this was her ring rust return. And on top of that, like, this isn't even like she made it clear in her earlier promo that Morgan is just a speed bump on the way to Naomi, so her head isn't fully even on this. This isn't her whole day.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was a very good match for what it needed to do here and for how these women performed. I was pleasantly surprised that Morgan was able to believably get off as much offense on Jade as she did. At the same time, there are certain instances where it's like I think Jade is overselling on certain things where she should be powering through it because she is like the premier muscle mommy of WWE. Like she is even more ripped and more defined than like Rhea Ripley. But that ties into the other, like, when you've got somebody that's that big and that powerful, sometimes they struggle to figure out a way that we're going to believe that they could lose or even have a good match with what's in the ring opposite them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think for this particular matchup, this was a pretty good match. And again, Morgan is starting to look very credible in that ring. Like for a long time, her credibility in the ring was a real issue, and they've worked on that, and it's getting good.
Yeah.
Like every time she won anything, there was this huge asterisk. Like, oh yeah, you beat Ronda Rousey, but it was when her knee was like dilapidated and only just barely.
Yeah.
So now they've gotten her to be not just an annoying little heel rat, which is a fantastic character for her. She's good at it, but she's actually able to get some shit done in the ring, which is aces. It also helps that like she's more about what she's doing in that ring as opposed to like being all fours with her ass in the air.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that helps a lot. Thanks. It really does.
It does because like I came to see women wrestle. I mean, we have the internet. It's not difficult to find women with their butts in the air. We can get that somewhere else.
Yeah.
What I'm here to see is somebody actually get in that ring and make me believe that they're competing. And to that end, Morgan has gotten much better on that side of things. So I was pleased with this match. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I felt like it was a good match. And I think it did a great job of showing us, Naomi and Cargill in the future and like giving us a hint of what Naomi as a heel looks like. Cause that was tough to imagine. Like Naomi's like, I'm the glue, bounce, 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 bounce. I'm all happy.
Yeah,
Yay.
yeah.
And then now
Mhm.
suddenly like, what does an evil Naomi look like? What, she gives you one less cookie? What, like
Yeah,
she was such a happy-go-lucky competitor that like her making a heel turn was hard to envision, and they showed it to us and it was like, okay, I could get with that. So I was pleased by what this match did all the way around, personally.
yeah. Okay, all right.
All right, and moving on from that, we had Kathy Kelly giving a man. Kathy Kelly is busy. She's a busy
Yeah,
girl.
she was
We had
busy. Yep, yep.
we had Kathy Kelly backstage interviewing Drew McIntyre, and she's asking where she thinks McIntyre's issues with Damian Priest end. And he goes on to say he didn't start it, but he'll damn well finish it. And he refers back to saying he explained his reasoning so clearly and simply last week, and he did. It actually was very. He actually made it make more sense than I think we expected it to be honest.
Yeah,
And he says even a 5-year-old could understand it. So now he's making a dig at Kathy, asking the obvious questions. But he basically says every time he was screwed over in the past year, Damian Priest was there to pick the bones and profit off of it. And he goes on to say he'd love anybody to explain to him how he's wrong. Basically, he's leaning into the you might not like what I'm saying, but where am I lying?
yeah,
And people love to say that he always complains on social media, but he tells the truth. Try to poke holes in his logic, you can't. And he gives Priest a little credit because he's as tough as he is stupid. But Drew says he'll see Priest in London next week, in the Queensland. And he then leaves, and as he's leaving, excuse me, he bumps into Seth Rollins, who is entering the arena looking like the biggest blueberry that ever blueberried. Man, Seth Rollins wears some crazy attire to the ring.
yeah.
It is something else. And then following that, we get another. It's the Ray Phoenix vignette. It's sort of like in flames in the background, where you're seeing a silhouette of Ray Phoenix. So he's coming. And then following that, we are treated to a segment involving the Street Profits, Legado del Fantasma, and Pretty Deadly. And if you would like to speak to that, by all means.
Well, this was basically both of them cutting promos right before their match, because I believe this was the main event. I believe Montez Ford started it. And the people, the fans loved the Street Profits. They had like, it was almost like a nail situation. They had their own language with each other. Where Montez would say something and the audience would respond, or Angela would do something and the audience would respond, like a huge pop. So that was really fun to see the engagement there. But before all that, the promo that the two teams cut started out with Montez Ford, where he says, I heard you're very generous." He's talking to the people. "You're very beautiful, but I got some news. For the first time in 4 years, your new WWE Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits." And he says, hey, I don't know if that was the news. But that was it. Angelo Dawkins followed up with, it's about damn time, which I agree. For the last 4 years, a lot of doubt has been creeping in. We were questioning each other. But us holding these titles right here made it all worth it, fam. Um, Montez follows up with, I know we're celebrating here tonight, but if I could be serious for a second, for the past 4 years, the fact that I know no matter what happens, peaks and valleys, highs and lows, I could always count on my brother. Speaking to Angelo. And then Santos Escobar appears. Now they're in ring when they're doing all of this. They're on mic talking. And then Santos Escobar, his music cuts and he comes out and it's like this. What a moment. The Street Profits finally capture gold. Beautiful. Too bad it's going to end abruptly. You see, my familia, these two beautiful chiseled Latinos are pissed. They're pissed just like them. But they're ready. And they're ready to take those titles off. Don't know what he was going with that. Don't know where he don't know.
I think that just like them was a reference to the crowd that was booing the shit out of him.
Yeah. And then Kid Wilson appeared. I didn't know. That's right. It was the Pretty Deadly came out. Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh my god. But Kid Williams comes in and he says, "Ah, yes, boy." I'm so happy they can say that now. Again, for a while there, for a while there, they had stopped even saying that. But he says, "Hey, Santos, you can run your mouth all night long, but the one you're forgetting a few weeks ago, we, Pretty Deadly, we earned the opportunity to call ourselves number one contenders." Elton backs him up, and says, so what Legado needs to do is step aside. Santos, playing his character to 1,000 that night, yells, "We will not step aside." See, the Street Profits chose to believe your pathetic gossip, and that's why we're in this mess in the first place. And by the way, Profits, I offered you guys to apologize and you didn't, so this is personal. So pretty deadly, stay out of it. So basically, he's like, you step aside. And Montez does say "whoa" about 100 times. They say 100. I'm gonna say about 110. About 110 times. He says,
"Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa."
Yeah, just whoa, 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 whoa. Like he woed himself out. He says, "Listen here, Mia Moore. Pretty Deadly already has their tag team title shot, but you know what? Santos, his team looks a little feisty tonight. They look spicy, you know? They did look spicy. They look like they want to get in a fight tonight right here in Bologna." I'm so glad I said that, not Bologna. Bologna, Italy.
In Bologna.
Yeah, in Bologna. So, how about I say something that you may understand in your English? Tonight, let's get loco, chico. I don't know why he said it in your English, but you know, everybody knew what he meant.
Say it to him in his Spanish English.
Let's say it to it in your English. Tonight, let's get crazy and fight. Let me say it in your native tongue. Andale arriba. That's pretty much. That's pretty much where he went. And then of course we got the iconic because the Street Profits are up, and we want the smoke. Which leads us into our fifth match of the night: the Street Profits versus Los Garza with Santos Escobar. And do you want to talk about their fifth match?
Yes. And this, I believe, was a surprisingly better match than I thought it would be.
True,
not because the Street Profits aren't amazing, but I'm still like watching to see how good Los Garza is. And Los Garza actually were bringing it. obviously the Street Profits are crazy, especially Montez Ford, who like on a dime will jump 7 feet in the air from like just standing there. Um, but surprisingly, it felt like Los Garza was kind of whipping their asses early on.
Yeah.
Like with things like double super kicks and some step through enzuigiris, and of course Garza of Los Garza has to rip off his pants like he's a male stripper. They can keep that, honestly. Like that gimmick can just go because we don't need a reminder of your former gimmick. like you need to be moving away from that at top speed. And then he pitches his pants at Dawkins, and Dawkins catches him like what? Um, but Garza is kind of kicking the tail off of Montez Ford here.
Yeah.
And he ends up getting him caught up in the tree of woe, tags in Carrillo, and they just repeatedly stomp the life out of Ford. Then they try to hit him in the turnbuckles again after stomping him. And he dodges out, and that's when Carrillo then tags himself in to stop Ford from making the tag. And unfortunately, Ford rolls under the clothesline, jumps 75 feet into the air, and makes the tag to Dawkins. And Dawkins immediately like comes off that hot tag on fire, hitting 3 straight clotheslines back to back, and then nailing the 360 stinger splash that he likes doing, and following that up with the spinning enziguri. I was waiting for him to hit the message, or I forget what he calls it, but basically the double underhook kind of spin out,
Yeah.
almost like a neck breaker. But after getting the 360 splash and the spinning enziguri, Carrillo ends up reversing out of an Irish whip from Dawkins. The referee gets slightly distracted by Garza, and Dawkins ends up doing kind of the leapfrog over Carrillo that he likes to do. But on the run back, Escobar reaches in and, I want to say, I'm trying to remember. I think he pulled down the top rope, actually, and that sent Dawkins tumbling to the floor. And that allowed Carrillo to end up hitting a suicide dive. And moving on from there, we end up coming back from, I think, the commercial break at that point with Los Garza on top again, and I want to say Garza has Dawkins in like a surfboard stretch where he's pulling his arms back. And they kind of go back and forth. Garza ends up hitting a big drop kick on Dawkins, but it only gets a 2 count. He then tags in Carrillo, and they do kind of an assisted seated senton against the ropes. And then they trade some shots back and forth. And for a while, you have Los Garza kind of keeping Dawkins cut off from Ford. And it felt, at this part of the match, I felt like they had Dawkins in the ring for a while, and they were just whooping his ass. So they're setting it up where we're like, come on, Dawkins, you're going to have to make a tag eventually. And they're just bodying Dawkins for a while. One of the high spots was Humberto Carrillo hitting like a roll through moonsault on him, and then he tags in Garza. And I want to say they have like Dawkins in the corner at this point, and they've lifted one of his legs over the middle rope, and Garza kicks him in the hamstring. Now I'm always a little nervous when they go for that type of move.
Yeah.
It looks a lot like you're kicking him somewhere else.
Yeah.
Somewhere that could get you disqualified. somewhere that you could find yam bags. Um,
Yambag Jones over here.
yeah, and then after doing that, Garza, I want to say, went to the other side and like taunted and cheap shotted it forward, and then kicks Dawkins in the face. So through the middle part of the match, it's like Los Garza has been dominating kind of this match. Like in the first segment, it was mostly Los Garza. In the middle section, it was definitely Los Garza. And then we head into the third part of the match where Los Garza ends up delivering the Garza special for a 2 count, and Dawkins is able to kick out and ends up kicking Carrillo in the face. And then he decks Garza with like a back elbow smash and throws Carrillo like out. No, not out of the ring. But basically slams him into the canvas. And then he's finally able to get over there and tag him Ford. And now we've got Ford on the hot tag, and the crowd is popping. They're like, oh, he finally made the tag, because he was in there for a long time.
Yeah.
And not for a good time. And Ford comes in with he gets the tag, and he gets rushed by I want to say it was Garza. No, Carrillo. And he hits the apron in Zagiri. Like he was waiting for him. Like he's like, come on, I know you're coming. And so he runs over to the ropes and gets kicked in the face. And then he hops in and he clotheslines Carrillo. And he runs over and he knocks Garza off the apron. Runs around Carrillo and hits a running lariat. And then after taunting to the crowd for a bit, Carrillo ends up launching Ford over the top rope. And when he goes to attack him on the apron, he gets caught with a straight right hand. And Ford ends up like diving over Carrillo. And then he hits a big fucking spine buster on him. And Ford is an interesting guy, because he's right in that like light heavyweight category. Like this dude can jump like 20 feet in the air. He can do all the high flying moves. But it's also entirely believable when he throws shit like a spine buster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or on the rare occasions that he's hit basically the rock bottom, and it just looks good. Like he is just he's that kind of an athlete that it's believable for him to do power moves as much as it is for him to do high flying moves, and it makes him a wonderfully versatile competitor. It's Escobar's been cool as a cucumber this entire match, because it looked like Los Garza's like, they're dominating, right? Well, at this point, he's starting to look rough. Like his shirt's untucked, his hair is tussed. He's looking like he's stressing out.
Yeah.
And we end up going where Los Garza attempts to hit a move off the top turnbuckle. But Ford, this was a cool spot. I'm not sure what they were trying to do. I think it was one of their team finishers, but they were attempting to hit it off the top, and it looked like it was going to be this thing where they lift Ford up, but he's like facing up, and they're pushing him up almost like a gorilla press, and then they were going to slam him, but he ends up landing on his feet. And this set up a really cool moment where they're both on the top looking at him in disbelief. And he's landed in almost like a superhero pose. And then he slowly turns to look at him over his shoulder. And this was gold. Like if you want a highlight reel moment, this is it. Because he turns and looks back at them, and they're just like, they're on the top rope, but somehow their jaws are on the floor. Right? And,
yeah.
And then they're like, No, because apparently Ford at this moment in time has decided he's going Super Saiyan. And then I want to say from there, we end up getting a tag to Dawkins. No, I'm sorry. What ends up happening is Dawkins runs along the apron and punches Garza, and Ford runs up the ropes and hits a superplex, I want to say, on Carrillo for a 2 count. and it was a fantastic. It was like a super duperplex where both men are all the way on the top rope, like it's not
Yeah.
middle rope or anything. And this was a ridiculous looking superplex, like in a good way. And then after that, Ford tags in Dawkins and Carrillo tags in Garza, and Dawkins hits the ring at a sprint and ducks a clothesline from Garza, and Garza hits a drop kick on Dawkins, but then Dawkins hits a cash out, and Dawkins then sends Carrillo to the outside, and then he runs back over and he blasts Santos Escobar, who had gotten up on the apron. Um, and in that process, Ford makes the blind tag, and Dawkins then like runs and hits a gigantic somersault plancha on like all three men that were out there at the time. They had congregated with Carrillo, Garza, and Escobar, and somehow Dawkins still managed to mostly fly over the top of them. And he took a bit of what looked like a tough landing because it looked like he landed on his feet, but he ended up going to his knees, and he was doing it at quite a high speed, but
Yeah.
he recovered nicely, and he grabs up Carrillo, who's the legal man. No, I'm sorry. He grabs up Garza, who's the legal man, throws him back in the ring, and it was at this moment that like you had to watch, but he sort of gives like a little yeet, and we were trying to figure out why did Dawkins do like a little tiny yeet just after throwing Garza in the ring, and the only thing we can come up with was Dawkins was like sending a message to Jey Uso, who had recently in his last match completely botched a jump over the top rope. So maybe Dawkins was talking a little bit of friendly shit with the little yeet.
Yeah.
And then Ford connects with From the Heavens, his just like 20 billion mile high frog splash, and he lands it beautifully. I love how he does this, where he hits the frog splash, and to reflect the impact with which he is hit, he almost bounces all the way back up. Like he ends up doing nearly a handstand before coming back down to get the pin. And the Street Profits pick up a victory in what was a real fucking banger of a tag match between them and Los Garza. Like way better than I expected.
Yeah.
And again, not because of the Profits. We know what they're capable of. That's why when they say it's about damn time with regards to them winning the title belts, everyone agrees. It's like, you guys are amazing. The wild card here was how was Los Garza going to look, and they looked outstanding. They dominated and carried most of the match in the first two portions. And sometimes when you give wrestlers who are a little under-seasoned the lead, like it's their time for offense, it can get a little slow. These guys knew exactly what they were doing. They executed perfectly. Los Garza is very, very good, or can be. Their in-ring work has certainly gotten a lot better, and certainly their shapes as well, especially Humberto Carrillo, who looks like he has seriously put on a lot of muscle mass while simultaneously losing a bunch of weight. He's looking chiseled. So like Los Garza is a force to be taken seriously, and this match really kind of put that into perspective. Like their match they just put on with the Profits was a great match. So very much enjoyed this match, and your recently new tag team champions, and still of course tag team champions, not that this was even a championship match, this was a grudge match. The Street Profits pick up the win, and they looked good doing it.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, really good tag match. Like this gives me a lot of hope about the potential for what the tag division could be doing.
Yeah.
And Pretty Deadly, you were out there talking some smack, but you're gonna have to come out here when you go against the Profits and hope to put on as good of a match. So, the pressure's on you now, Pretty Deadly. Yes, boy.
Yes, boy. I think that leads us into Not a match, but another segment with CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth freaking Rollins. No one ever
Almost.
writes the freaking.
Almost.
Almost?
Yeah, because immediately following that match, we're taken backstage where DIY is trying to talk to Pretty Deadly, and they want to strike up another quid pro quo kind of a deal.
Oh, that's right.
And
It's
they're
so
all
easy for
trying
me
to.
to forget DIY.
It's easy to forget DIY, but they're all sweet talking to them. They're like, "Hey, we're really happy for you guys. Congratulations. We knew you could do it. Yes, boy." Using their
Yeah.
catchphrase like they think Pretty Deadly is like just shit fucking stupid. And so Pretty Deadly is like, "So you want a kind of like, you scratch our back, we'll scratch your deal?" And they're like, "Yeah, yes, boy." And Pretty Deadly's like, "No, boy." And they leave. And I'm like, excellent. And that leaves DIY kind of, because for some reason this was taking place in what looked like a stairwell.
Yeah.
And so that leaves them standing there, and the Motor City Machine Guns just happen to need to use this stairwell at the same time. Oh, surprise!
They're both
And so,
visiting the same stair troll.
yeah, exactly. And so they show up and they welcome DIY to the back of of the tag championship line, and indicate that they have unfinished business and they want to kick their ass. And now we can get to where you were going, which is a CM Punk Roman Reigns Seth freaking Rollins segment. I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Try not to cough. It's the weather. I don't know, the allergies. But
Yeah, it is the season for that.
yeah. But this segment starts out with Roman Reigns coming out to the ring, and he does his "Acknowledge Your Tribal Chief" opener, which of course the audience was already acknowledging him before he even asked for that.
Yeah,
Like-
he was acknowledged way in advance.
Yeah, like they were singing, which made him very happy. So happy, in fact, that he starts out with "Your OTC loves you." So that's why I'm gonna tell you what's been on my mind, and of course they're like,
Yeah.
Daddy,
Also,
but
but I would like to acknowledge that Roman Reigns, I think, had a hard time shouting the town, like, because he had to say Bologna.
yeah,
Like, acknowledge me. And he started to crack a grin because I think he felt like, because, no offense to Italy, but stateside bologna is a sandwich meat.
yeah,
And so he basically was shouting bologna at the top of his lungs, and I think that made him crack a grin.
yeah. That is true. I think he found some delight in that. Uh, but then after he does his acknowledgments and whatnot, he gets into his why he's there, which is last month at the Rumble, CM Punk screwed him. So last week at the Garden, he screwed CM Punk. But that's not it, because last month at the Rumble, Seth Rollins tried to kill him. It's okay, because last week at the Garden, he tried to kill Seth Rollins. So here's the deal. The OTC came a long way, and he was out there to take his time. And he was going to be there for at least another 15 to 20 minutes, or however long this segment it is, wink wink. And if anybody wanted to come out and confront their tribal chief, please let him know. Well, of course, Seth Rollins' music cuts, and he comes down to the ring. And now the audience is singing to Seth. The audience is getting everything they wanted out of their lives right, like in this moment. Like, they got Roman out there, they got Seth, but wait, there is another. We'll get to that. So, Seth comes out, and he says, "Roman Reigns, you messed up. You see, you don't understand how dangerous CM Punk is. You don't understand how dangerous he is to the future of this industry, to the future of this company. You should have let me finish CM Punk when I had the chance. But I get it. I get it. It's not about him. It's never been about him. It's about you and me. It's always been about you and me. We came into this company. There is no you without me. There is no me without you. And we cannot coexist in the same space at the same time. This story, the story of Roman and Seth, it's got a lot of pages written. And I think it's about time we added another chapter. So they're about to get into it. Which I love the fact that Seth basically just said, I'm about to kick your ass. But he had to go through this amazing, he's amazing on the mic, okay? But he had to come out and give them a Shakespearean sonnet before he basically said, yes, I get it. You won't get off my nuts. Which
I
makes
agree,
me
and
have to kick you in the nuts.
And
now
Seth
here we
wonderful.
are. Yeah. He's absolutely amazing. So after he says all that, they're about to get into it, or they look like they're about to get into it, right? Like Roman's like, what? And Seth's like, you heard me, right? And then CM Punk's music cuts on, and now for the audience, life is truly at the pinnacle. It's just, it can't get any better. I mean, his music cuts out, and then he comes out, and he gets to the ring. And he says hi to Paul Heyman as he's climbing up the turnbuckles. And Rollins is absolutely pissed now. He throws down his mic. CM Punk says, this right hand is not taped up to hold a microphone. But before the circus takes off, let's talk about some facts. Big Chief, he says to Roman, he's referencing Roman as Big Chief, and he referenced Seth Rollins as Grimace, and I like the die. Like, I was laughing so hard about that it was very hard for me to listen to anything else he was saying, because we were talking about Seth's outfit when he came out. Josh and I talked about this dude's outfit for I don't know how long. If we should just start recording while we're watching this kind of stuff, because we went back to back about this dude's outfit. So when we let it go after that. But then CM Punk comes out and he's all Big Chief, Grimace, and I'm done. Neither of you have ever beat me without the other one's help. Think about that. Because you can't. And Roman, I didn't screw you. I know it's been a while since you've been in one, but in the Royal Rumble, it's every man for himself. Your wise man should have clued you in on that one. And you would have, excuse me, and you wouldn't have even made it to the Royal Rumble if I didn't save your family's ass at War Games. It's got a point. Of which, by the way, I am owed a favor, Paul. No, you know what? Not right now. Before we get to that favor, I just want to say thank you for delivering your tribal chief on a silver platter for me tonight. I appreciate it. And so, after he said that, Roman turns around and he starts staring at Heyman, and then Punk clocks Roman from behind with the microphone, and then all hell breaks loose at that point. I mean, there's like a brawl over here, a brawl over there. Like they'd break it up, and then it would start again in another area. They made sure to show an opportunity for each superstar to get a move off and have the audience chant for them. They were, I don't know how they did it, but they did it real well. Like Seth would do something and they would start singing Seth's song, and then CM Punk did something and then they would start chanting CM Punk, and then Roman did something and they would just start yelling OTC. So they planned for this to be a crazy match, and I'm not gonna lie, at first, because I would really want for Roman and Seth to finally have that match. You know what I mean? Have that quote unquote talk that they need to have about the betrayal. You know, the moment that started it all. They haven't addressed that really in the ring yet. So I'm really, really hoping, excited for the day that happens. However, CM Punk being thrown into this mix does not kill this match for me. I am intrigued. I am here for the outcome. Um, yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I predicted this one.
oh yeah, you did. Yeah, Josh. I mean, you guys. Anybody who listens to the podcast, they heard he made the prediction. I think once or twice. At least once. I know for a fact on one of the previous podcasts or one of the previous episodes. So whenever somebody goes, no one saw this. No one saw this coming. Josh is like, hold my psychic vision. So yeah,
Yep.
he called it, and honestly though, at first, even when maybe because I had some time to adjust to the idea of having a three-way match with these guys, but I mean, I was maybe because of that, I'm okay with CM Punk being in it, but maybe I had time to adjust. But I don't know. I'm here for it. I think it's going to be a good match, and I think they've given me enough proof to show me that CM Punk can get in the ring, and I'd immediately snap his spine. Um, he's held out there. Hopefully, he doesn't have any injuries that he's hiding because he doesn't want to be on the shelf again. But if everything works out, if everything plays out as it should, then I think this is going to be a great match, and I'm here for it. I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah, I agree. And I would just like to note there was a cool elegance to the way they did this brawl. And I know that sounds like a weird thing to say about a brawl, but they had a situation where not only did they chant for each wrestler, but each wrestler took an opportunity to, without saying it, show us that, they all want this match at WrestleMania. Punk initially climbed up on the announce table after, he broke away from the brawl and he pointed at the WrestleMania sign and kind of indicated to the two opponents. And then, there was a point where Rollins had the one up and he's, beating on Punk, and he takes his turn to sort of point at the WrestleMania sign and indicate that he wants this match. And then, they went from there to Reigns, attacking Punk and Rollins with like steel ring steps. And there's a point where Reigns puts the steps back on the ground, steps up on top of them, points at the Mania sign, and looks at both of them. And so, wordlessly, in the midst of this brawl, they all three, confirm the triple threat match that's going to happen at WrestleMania. And we end up with, the brawl just continuing as security guards are trying to control these three superstars, as they go off the air in Bologna.
Yeah.
And I think it was shortly after the fallout of Elimination Chamber. I think the questions that we were asking were like, I think it was like, so Punk's not going to WrestleMania. And I'm like, no, I think I still see a path for Punk. And it was also like, well, what do you think we're doing with Roman? If they're not going to do Roman Rock, what's Roman going to do? And it just sort of coalesced that I foresee this being a triple threat match with Roman, Rollins, and CM Punk at WrestleMania. And this was only like, I want to say we were discussing the Raw, I think, after Elimination Chamber. So, yeah, I really am interested in this match. It gives Punk his pathway to his WrestleMania moment, and he's in there with like the top of top guys. Yes, the belt isn't on the line, but Roman Reigns is the top guy in the WWE. Yeah. It ain't Cody. Cody is a top guy, but the head of the table is Roman Reigns. I mean, this is a dude who held the belt for over 1,000 and something days, in a ridiculously long title run in the modern era.
Yeah.
And, basically he is as a performer higher up on the card than even The Rock. And his whole family has a whole lot of juice in this industry. And so it's not like Punk is having his WrestleMania moment as like just a throwaway match. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. These are the toppest guys in the company right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have all that history between Seth and Roman, and you have the hatred that has been building up like for a while between Seth and Punk. And now you've got these issues that have occurred to give Punk more motivation and Roman to have more motivation to hate each other. So this is a fantastic, like, just beat the hell out of each other grudge match going into WrestleMania, and I'm here for it. Um, this will be a real banger, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I could not agree more.
So with all of that said, how would you rate this episode of WWE SmackDown?
I thought it was fun. Even the matches that I was like about, they were good. It was entertaining. Thought it flowed well. I really enjoyed the segment there, and the last match, the main event, was a banger. Um, Surprisingly so. And I also I like that the Street Profits. I don't know if they have anything to do with the people that they have a match with. I don't know if they have any say or any pull, or if they can make a request. But I if that's the case, and they requested to have a match with Los Garza, then I think that's freaking awesome. Um, and what a great way for those two men to shine. I mean, because they looked great. They looked competitive. They looked like a tag team to be concerned with. And I think you said that earlier. So it was that alone, that match alone, uh, had me very much invested in the show itself, or just in SmackDown. But overall, SmackDown I thought was pretty good. This is another one with the promos and the vignettes being bangers. Really, the basically the interview between Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton was good. I know we critiqued it, but honestly, as a fan, that was some good shit. That was some hot ridiculous shit. So I'm here for that.
Mm-hmm.
I am not super excited for a match between LA Knight and Braun Strowman, but we'll see how it turns out. I'm open to it. I'm receptive to it being good. And I know we've been going at it for a minute, so I don't want to take any too much more time. But the opener with Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, actually I thought was pretty entertaining too. And I actually enjoy hearing both of those gentlemen on the mic. So overall, I'd give this episode at least an 8. I thought it was top tier. It did keep me invested in it. Even whilst we watched it late, I was still into it. So I thought it was a fun episode.
Nice. Okay, so top tier.
Yeah, top tier.
All right. I will agree with you. Typically, when I'm trying to put together my overall feelings on a show, the first thing I go is like, what's my initial feeling when it ends? Am I like, oh, that was awesome, or that was lame? This was very good. Was my initial feeling, and then I'll contrast like, okay, what are the highest highs and the lowest lows, and I'll see, which one's pulling the other. And this show didn't have any real lowest lows. Like everything was somewhere between good or very good. And some of them even like the match with Los Garza and the Street Profits was a banger. Like it was off the charts good in my opinion, especially like with having a very kind of minimal expectations for that one. I was really impressed by Los Garza, and of course the Street Profits did their thing, so you end up with a banger of a match.
Yeah.
Um, all of the promos were solid. Some of them were very very good. And then you have the close with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk, which was fire. So for me, I actually find myself landing in like an 8.5 on the neck nub scale, and this was absolutely top tier. There was nothing that was bad. Everything was good to great. And so this was a tremendous episode of SmackDown. I am very, like, when I think of WrestleMania and the things that I am hyped up for, I absolutely want to see where CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns goes. And I think that's a heck of a matchup because I've been very clear that I'm not a huge CM Punk fan. I actually really want to see this match with CM Punk in it. Because there isn't as much of a hate boner between Roman and CM Punk. That's newer. And it's more like no, he's my wise man. But there is a massive hate boner between Seth and CM Punk, and there's a huge like old grudge between Roman and Seth. So there's a lot of heat on this, like a lot.
Yeah.
And that it's just like two of the best performers ever, and one who at least recently has been being very good. And that's me giving some credit to CM Punk, so make a note.
Jesus.
So I mean, I really think this could be a runaway like main event match.
I agree.
In one of the evenings, even though it probably won't be booked as the main event, it could be a main event match.
Yeah.
So yeah, SmackDown absolutely fantastic. It built hype for a few things for me. Obviously, the match I just spoke about. I'm curious to see what sort of a situation we find the Street Profits in coming into WrestleMania. Maybe they'll be given an opportunity to defend their new titles in hopefully a very compelling matchup. I'm also much more interested, having seen like the first like real showing of Naomi on the dark side. I'm real curious to see what buildup we have coming between Cargill and Naomi.
Yeah.
And possibly even Bianca getting in there somewhere. Maybe. Oh, if I was going to have a special referee match, it'd be Cargill versus Naomi with special guest ref.
Oh my God, that's too messy. No,
it's so messy. It's so messy that it has to happen.
Oh my God.
Now, if they end up making that match, you heard it here first.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to see. That would be intense, making Bianca have to play peacemaker in terms of being an objective official in a match between her two besties.
Yeah, that'll stress her straight the fuck out.
Yeah, exactly. And it will also give us an opportunity to have more of that juicy drama that we got where Naomi was like psycho stalking fangirling Bianca in like a creepy stalker kind of way. And it's like, I did it for Bianca.
Oh gosh.
That would be super juicy, and I would be here for it. You also mentioned like your excitement level of Braun Strowman versus LA Knight, and I kind of see where you're coming from, right?
Yeah.
Here's my thing. I'm struggling to put my interest eggs in that basket just yet because this match is almost guaranteed to be fucked with by Solo, Jacob, and Tama. So I'm not sure how invested I should get in the actual matchup because I really feel like it's just set up to be interfered with by the bloodline. So we'll see how that turns out because I really do. I mean, it's just begging for it. Like if ever there was a match that like, oh, we know that the bloodline is going to interfere here, it's that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's certain things I'm really hot to see now, and I think SmackDown did a good job of like in and of itself, it was a good show. But the things that it's setting up for the future, I'm interested in, and that's exactly what you want it to do. So this was absolutely top tier.
Yeah.
All right. That said, I want to thank everybody who joined us for this episode, and I invite you to please join us for our next episode of the Top Tier Wrestling Podcast. Until then, I don't think there's much left for me to do but roll the outro.
Bye, guys! Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Top Tier Wrestling. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest AEW and WWE news and shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Follow us on social media for updates and to join the conversation. Until next time, everyone, remember, wrestling is always better when it's top tier.